Okay, we got okay, we got Ali B. How you doing? Brian Walsh, how you doing? If you guys want to join me, then I'll be sending some links out shortly. It's not going to be as long of a thing as it were last night. It got a bit heated last night. But it was still good, you know. But I did wish that the topic could have shifted after a while, you know, because I think people's attentions are just gonna, kind of go after a while because they don't want to listen to like drama and stuff. So, but yeah. So anyway, we got Flutter Stillwater. How you doing? Curtis Effie Jackson. Saw you on Dell's hangout earlier. Yeah. So yeah. But it seems like there's an increasing amount of people kind of watching these things. I suppose it's kind of a sign of progress. But who knows what's actually going to happen? Who the hell knows what's going to happen? I just worry if something going to happen, that's not for our benefit. Let's say that. But I don't know what could happen. Whether they're going to try and push it into some false paradigm, or they're going to pull off like a huge distraction, like a Project Bluebeam or something like that, which a lot of people have been talking about how they might stage some fake alien invasion or something to throw people off what's really going on. So you got Picking Pole 1, how you doing? Eternal Padawan, how you doing? I'll let you on if you want to come on, because you said you were going to come on last night, but you couldn't make it, could you? So yeah, just let me know if anyone wants to join for a bit. So we got THC gets you high, helium gets you higher. How you doing? I think I saw you a bit like earlier on when I think it was on Mr. Poncho Pete hangout, and there was some other guys in there, and one of them was like pro Trump or whatever, and it was like, I mean, it's fine if he believes that he's kind of doing good, that he's like sort of our savior. I mean, but I think that's a bit ridiculous. I think if you come to this point of the awakening, then, or where you want to call it that, then you got to realize that you can't get past a certain level without selling out, because it's all controlled. It's we know that the music industry at the highest levels is corrupted. The highest levels of pretty much anything. Because when people get higher and higher and higher, that the greed levels kind of get higher as well. So and these people are interested in equality, and so I'd be very surprised if Trump is actually on our side. I mean, the guy said, well, there's not broken any promises as of yet, but that's as of yet. It might be to kind of lull us into a false sense of security, so further down the line they can start to implement things that we weren't prepared to actually try and stop. So to me it's like, there's a lot of suspicions about anyone in real high power, and to me it's just pretty obvious that these people are looking out for themselves. I mean, the guy has billions, billions in real estate or whatever. It's like, so to me it's clear that these people are looking out for themselves and themselves only. So anyway, Skyfly Bry, how are you doing? YouTube, how are you doing? Squirrel Sniper, how are you doing? Rick Vats, how you doing? Yeah, probably there, man. Yeah, probably just another puppet, but that's my opinion. I just think that these people are probably actors. They're probably bought off by the elite, and they're only interested in themselves basically, and not only themselves and people who are going to help them. So ultimately, it's about themselves. So yeah, I think we just got to be aware that these people aren't our saviors. No one's our savior, okay? I mean, Chris F. E. Jackson, someone in Dell's chat was saying I was an agent. I said it is an agent. What? Oh, anyway, Donna Trump. Well, this whole transvestigation thing. I mean, people seem to have some fair points about, some of the analysis that's been done on these people, and finding that they might have, traits of the other gender, and quite a lot of them. I mean, but what are we really going to do with that information? How is it really going to affect our lives? What if people find that out? I don't think people really care about it, to be honest. It's just one of these rabbit holes, and I think it's fine if people want to go down these different rabbit holes, but they just got to be aware that, they just got to, unless there's absolute proof, you got to be like, that's interesting, and just leave it at that. Don't be, completely, like kind of like completely like that it can't not be. It's like you just got to be open to whatever it is, and I think it's just best to focus on what's more provable. Really, that seems to be more of a kind of a better stance, really, instead of just being led down all these crazy rabbit holes. So you got Ireland Von Vicious. How you doing? But yeah, Rick Vats, the transgender stuff is another psyop. It is part of the agenda to break down the family unit. Well, I don't know really what they're trying to plan, but I mean, maybe some of the people who put stuff out there are just putting it out to get viewers and what have you, and don't actually believe in the stuff that they're putting out, but they think, well, there is some points to it, but I don't believe in it myself, so they just put it out to, try and get a few 100,000 views or a few million views or whatever. Well, that stuff doesn't usually get millions of views, but over time they can probably get a few thousand subs out of it doing these types of things. You got people like Russian Vids with, his like 70 odd thousand subscribers on one of his channels, talking about all these different topics and about how there's the symbolism and, Freemasonry, and they're all transgenders, they're all puppets, I do agree there's a lot of puppets, but I think it goes a bit over the top, and, I don't know what the intentions of these people are, and nobody does apart from themselves, really, and if there's like an elite, then they'll know what their goal is. Eternal Padawan, I think Dell's on the level. I've had a few private hangouts with him, and my FB group, he can be a bit close, but on the whole, a great guy. Yeah, I think, I mean, some people might think, well, he doesn't really talk about some things, but I think what he tries to do is keep it kind of, try and not kind of muddy the waters, kind of keep it, stripped down to the basics. And it's like, where do we live? What shape is the earth? What is this reality? Where have we come from? What have we come from? Who are we? Where are we? What are we? All these questions that need to be asked. And it's like, seems like the scientists try and avoid them because, who knows, maybe they're told what kind of things to research into, these scientists who actually do these like study into like chemicals and whatever, and and a lot of them at the highest levels are probably only able to focus on certain areas because they're paid to do that. Actually, you do get some scientists, the smaller ones, who talk about everything, really. Well, not everything, but I mean, like they can talk about anything they want to talk about, and kind of study into whatever they want to talk about. And so apparently some Russian physicists actually came out and said the Earth is actually flat, which is very interesting, because apparently this guy is actually quite a big like physicist in Russia. Like apparently it's this quite a big physicist or something, and he's come out and said the Earth is flat or something, which is interesting because if it's someone big, then that means it's going to get out to quite a wide audience of people. But it would make you question why are big people talking about it, actually coming out and talking about it. But we've got to kind of stay positive, I suppose, and not kind of think, oh, they're going to win and all that. But at the same time, we've got to be wary. So anyway, we got Naomi. How you doing? So yeah, I mean. Yeah, if anyone wants to join, like I said before, let me know. If you've not been on before, then give me an address so I can get you a link. Well, anyway, I've signed up. I've created an account on another video, the kind of publishing platform, because I heard someone talking about it, so I thought I'd go and check it out. It's called VidMe. So yeah, there's a link to my account in the description, so you can actually go and check that out. And you can actually go and, if you have an account, then you can actually go and like follow me over there. But otherwise, you can make an account and actually start spreading the truth over there as well. Right, cool. I'm Vicious. I'll just right. So yeah, I'll send you the link. If anyone else wants to join, then all right. Well. So Skyfly Bride, Jamie Brown, send the link to Nathan Oakley, Hot Potatoes, Antonio, and all them. If you might pop in, then you will get more subscribers. Well, it's possible, but you know, I don't know, because you might get people that will just come in to watch them or something, and then. But it's an idea, I suppose.
Hey, Jamie.
How you doing?
Oh, doing well, man. Another beautiful week. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, thanks. So have you made any progressions with your model then?
This week's been more about what I'm gonna do for a video series, and definitely got some progression on that this week.
Right.
One of the things I've been looking into is how many scientists are already questioning the Big Bang, and that's one of the things I'm going to be.
So you don't believe in the Big Bang, do you?
No, I definitely do not.
So how do you think it all started then?
I think that assuming that it had to have started is the beginning of the problem with all Earth models. Like I don't assume that it has a starting point or an ending point. It may have always been. I'm not going
Well,
to.
that is a possibility because I was thinking of maybe what some might call infinite regression, but in a way that kind of doesn't make sense. I don't know. It kind of it's really mind blowing when you get into some of these kind of more philosophical type things about how did this all happen. But maybe some of it's a distraction though.
Well, with where I'm looking at it, it would be the location that the Earth currently holds has always been, but it may not be in the shape or form that we know it as today. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even in any model, let's say you throw something else at the Earth, I don't care if it's another flat plane or another globe or whatever you want to do, and it collides and it basically forms into a new thing with whatever shape at that location. Like, did it ever have a starting point? Does it start at the point those two things collided, or because there's going to be another collision and there's always been collisions? Like,
well, there's some people that believe that in multiverses and how there's big bangs going on all the time, but that makes you question what caused the Big Bang in the first place. You know,
I'm not much for the multiverse. I think the only thing we have that would have been evidence for it from CERN actually makes the likelihood of a multiverse way less likely. And when the only piece of evidence we have points toward no, I have to go with, well, I doubt there's a multiverse. So anyone in YouTube who's interested in that, you can look at what was discovered with the Higgs boson with the collisions they did at CERN and why that reduces the chance of the multiverse and what the results were versus what was expected. But I'm getting at more of like, if you have a pile of sand and you take away a piece of sand and put it somewhere else, and is it still a pile of sand? And at what point do you get to a grain where you say it's no longer a pile? Is a single grain a pile of sand? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
Like,
you just say that again then.
Well, I'm saying if you have a pile of sand and there's 10,000 particles, it's just 10,000 pieces of sand in a pile. Well, if you take one piece away from the pile, is it still a pile of sand? And at what point, if you keep taking pieces away, does it cease to be a pile of sand? If they're all separated, does it become 10,000 piles of sand, or is it just 10,000 pieces of sand? Does it need more than two to be a pile? Like, it's one of those. That's what I'm saying. Like the Earth, like beginning and end. I'm saying there may have always been a pile of sand, and if you throw another 10,000 pieces on it, is it still the same pile of sand? And if you take 10,000 pieces away, half from what was there before and half that you had just thrown on, is it still the same pile of sand? You know what I mean? At what point does it cease to be the same thing? Like people, like you and me, right? Our cells die and we create new cells. So every cell in your body right now was not with you the day you were born. So at some point, did you stop being you and become a new thing, or have you always been you?
Well, it's like, for instance, if you have like say you have a bicycle, for instance, and you have to keep getting new parts for it. At what point is that bike, no longer that same bike anymore, sort of thing?
Yes,
because it's morphing into something new, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm saying, at what point, like, why do we assume the Earth has a start or an end? Maybe it's just ever changing. I don't know. To me, the Big Bang Theory is just as much of a creationism story as what a lot of people push from the Bible. But I also look at the Bible's creation story as not even necessarily saying there was a beginning of anything other than the Earth we know.
Well, the problem I have is that because you get these creationists, and I kind of understand that it doesn't make sense that we're an accident, like that they just that come from some random explosion, and that
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
and it's like
That's another creationism story to me. Like, something from nothing or something from a being is both creationism. Like, I don't care which, like, it may not have been created from a God attitude, but Big Bang Theory is still creationism. Like, even if it's something from nothing or the pop into existence attitude, or it was once all one little egg and it exploded, it's still creationism. Like, this is what created all things, and I do not.
I'm sure you said that you believe in God or something.
Well, what I'm getting at is, like, even if you read the book of Genesis, and you start right at the beginning of the Bible, and it talks about how the earth was created. And this, what I'm getting at is, it says it was basically shapeless, a void, but it doesn't say it didn't exist. Even the Bible doesn't say there was no earth. It says it was shapeless. It was void of things. It did not have light. It tells a story of things were added in order to make what we see now, but it doesn't start with, in the beginning there was nothing, which is weird that so many people who read the Bible say, well, God created it. Like, no, it doesn't say it created it. It says he did these things to it. Like, what if the existence of what we're experiencing, like, because I look at it as we live in the gradient between all things, an infinite everything, and absolute nothingness, and we live within that gradient. So if the gradient always existed, sure, you could have a God that did what he wanted with it. It could have been random, but it always existed. You know what I mean?
Um, just say that one more time.
Well, let me put it like this. If you have a jar, an empty jar, and a person walks over and fills it with a substance, water, honey, whatever, or somehow honey just showed up in the jar. Well, the jar always existed, right? Like, as far as you know in this story, the jar was there was no point at which you said there was no jar, now there is a jar. Like, the container of the gradient that I'm talking about, like, it's always there. Just because something put water in it or honey or whatever, it may have created a jar with honey in it, but it didn't create the jar. Like, there's a point where you could just say the universe as a total always exists. It was like, I don't know how to put it. Like, even to people who are like big God believers, like, it has to be a God, all that, like, seriously religious type people. It's a matter of, hey, if God is all things and God is all knowing, well, if that's then all things are part of God, even though all those things might not be God itself.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking. That so it would mean that we're all a part of this God, and it seems like a lot of the people seem to have some abstract ideas of what God is. But if you put it in those terms, it makes it a lot more understandable.
Well, yeah, and then at what point do you say he created this? Well, like, wait, or it created it. It's like, well, that means that God didn't exist. If God is all things, didn't all things always exist? If God is all knowing, isn't all knowledge always existing?
Yeah, it just seems like a huge contradiction to me, because it's like, oh, who created God then? And that, and who created, it's like, but they're like, oh no, because God's like a creatorless creator, huh?
Right. But I look at it as, there is, like, we know there is, like, we experience something, so therefore there is of some type. And we have the abstract idea of nothingness, total lack of that which is all anything we know of. And if both of those things exist, how can they both exist? There would have to be a gradient between them in order for that.
Yeah, because it's all we can experience is the gradient between nothingness and infinity. Because when people talk about space as in like a devoid of anything, that's something that we can't really conceive of. Because, well, actually, in a way, it's like the only way would be literally, to have that. There'd be like kind of, you're pretty much dead. That's what it'd be like.
Yeah. But that's what I'm getting at. Like, what if it always is? Like, I don't jump to that conclusion that there was a point at which there was no something. I let creationism on both the Big Bang and religious dogma take that place.
So you have like a totally different stand altogether. Then I mean, stance. I mean, like you have your own idea of what it could be, don't you?
Yes, very much. I don't start with creationism. I have no
But
proof.
so you're not an atheist, though, are you?
No, I'm definitely not an atheist.
So what makes you say that you're not an atheist then?
Well, believing that I live in the gradient and that the total of all things is a thing in and of itself, just like all the cells in your body make you, as if we were one cell and the total is the body, then whether you look at it as a personal God or not, like that's a whole separate issue. But the total of all things to me is a deity in and of itself. So therefore, before I could even get into a religious talk, I've already set myself as a deist at the bare minimum and have already taken a stance against atheism.
Well, people assume that like an atheist is just someone who doesn't believe in a creator, But if you don't believe in a creator, then doesn't that make you an atheist?
No, I mean, if you look at the scale of religious aspects, like our belief systems, you start with someone who says, I have no idea, right? They are just completely unknowing. They are not, they are on the 50-50 coin flip of there's a 50% chance there is a God, there's a 50% chance there's not. They have no idea, but they are not considered an atheist because they are not saying there is no God. So from that point, you're going to take one step in any direction or stay in that location as far as your belief system. And if you start leaning one direction or the other, you get to the point where there is something that is big, greater than ourselves, or there is nothing. If you went toward the nothing side, you are now an atheist. If you went toward the side of there is something, you now believe in some type of deity.
Well, the thing with atheists, even they're creationists in a way because they believe something created, this reality.
Right. Well, that's like why like if you look at polls and stuff, like when they do like say like the LA Times did one where they talk about like if you want to know about God, ask an atheist, right? Like because they do a thing. Atheists know more about God than most religious people is the headline, but the headline's a complete lie because you look at what they actually did and they added agnostic into the atheist group and it made a separate group of those who just say like I don't know, I have no opinion, I don't care. So you took away the group who just doesn't care, like the don't care group was made separate, and then you make the people who don't know and admit they don't know, and these are usually the people who are like the great seekers trying to find out as much as they can in order to make a decision, and they mixed them in with the atheists, but they don't. They're almost completely different. Like they're not quite opposite, but they're close. Like
Well, I'd say they're kind of that in between group where it's like they're sort of sitting on the fence
yeah,
type,
but if you take away the people who don't give a squat in any group and then say only the people who really cared, well, how much do you guys know about religion? And of course, those people know a lot because you took out the people who were weighing down the average. And you also mixed atheists in with them so that your atheist score of how well do you guys know religion goes really high because of it. But everybody else who has people who go, oh, yeah, I'm a Catholic, Christian, Mormon, Islam, whatever it may be, who really don't care. They just kind of go through the motion. They may not know that much about their own religion because of it, but they're still factored in. But what I'm getting at is atheism is mixed in with agnostic in order to give themselves a better talking point on acting like they know more about this than everybody else, even though they are not really the same group. That's what I'm really getting at. Like people still mix them together, but they really should not be. They're approaching it for very different perspectives on, and even goals for seeking of knowledge.
Well,
But
so
yeah,
you don't believe in evolution then?
See, I look at it's a matter of do I believe in like selective breeding? Well, yeah. Like, does that exist? Yes, we've proven it. Can we change the species over time? Yes. As far as like we've note like moths going from majority black to white or back, so be it. And you can see it. People's kids look like the parents. So, can you change like genetic aspects of a species? Sure, I have no doubt you can. Some people they try to deny it, any of that stuff, and I just get to the point where okay, do we know there's mutations? Yes, we do know there's mutations. So at what point does it become a new species? Like, do I believe it changes species the way evolution is currently taught? No, because I believe it's more like the pile of sand thing. We're right back to the same problem. Like,
Yeah,
at what
because there
point?
hasn't really been any kind of real experiments done to prove that one species could actually completely morph into like a completely different species. And because when we look at, apes, for instance, it's like, they try and claim that, we came from apes, but really there isn't any absolute proof that we did, because surely there'd be some evidence to support that was like,
even if we proved it first, a lot of people don't really believe we came from like the apes we see today. It's a point of it splitting, right? Like say you have a flower that looks like a daisy, and then you take the handful of each, a handful of daisies, put them in one group, and a handful of daisies in another. And you slowly change them, just like we've done with dogs or horses. And you go, look, it's a new kind of flower. It's a rose. It's whatever, a lily. They're not the same flower anymore. And at some point, can you make them so different that they can no longer interact with each other and combine it? And that's when we start considering something a different species. So have we proven that we can actually make different species compared to just different breeds? We haven't pulled that off yet. Like we see it with dogs. Like we make lots of different dog breeds, but dogs can still get back together and make a mud. And it's still a dog. So I guess when it comes to the evolution part, like what our most odd thing in nature are things like horses with donkeys, or tigers and lions making ligers, so that Napoleon Dynamite can have something really awesome to draw. I don't know if you've seen that movie. But okay, there's a little joke there for whoever on YouTube may have gotten it. But basically, you're showing two different species at that point that can still have offspring, but the offspring cannot have more offspring. So at that point, they still call it a different species, even though they still can have an offspring combined, but because it can't continue for multiple generations, it's a different species. So does that prove some type of species split in the first place, even though we haven't been able to prove one since? Possibly. I just go with the evidence. So like I said, it's the pile of sand attitude or the new piece of a bike or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you want to consider that evolution, sure. But can you split a species? Yeah, there's probably a good chance of it. I'm not saying it until we see it happen the way evolution currently claims that it's done. I don't think it's going to be proven. So
what do you think about the whole, chicken and the egg thing?
Well, that kind of goes. That's that whole creationism attitude. At what point was there no chicken or no egg? Like, what if there's always been a chicken or an egg? Like, why do you have to say what came first?
Yeah, that's a point. I mean, I suppose the atheist would say, well, with the way they evolved, and it's like at some point it weren't a chicken, so that chicken laid an egg, which then became a chicken. If you get what I'm saying, so that's probably how they would look at it, but there's no proof of it.
Well, even if you say there was an egg that made the chicken, previous to that, the thing that you decide is not a chicken by its genetic makeup due to lack of that last mutation that you consider made a chicken, it still came from an egg. So there were eggs before chicken. Like even if it was, you know what I mean? And until that chicken is born.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then you get to the point of if that egg, we'll say, well, that doesn't count because that's the egg of the thing before. That's not the egg of a chicken. You go, okay, well, before that egg hatched into a chicken that could actually live on its own and prove that it could exist in the world instead of just being something that could become a chicken. Until that chicken actually hatched, you go, is that was it really a chicken? Because if it never was able to be a fully live chicken, then that would interact with the world in any way that it wasn't a chicken. Or did a chicken exist at the moment it broke through that egg? So that you still end up with the same argument, chicken or egg. You count it when the egg that had the chicken in it came, or when the first chicken.
Yeah, because it could be like a false dichotomy, couldn't it? That it's like one or the other when it could be neither.
That too, yeah. Like it's a matter of one does not exist without the other is what makes the whole thing funny in the first place. No matter how you look at it, whether it's through evolution, no evolution, any of it, you still get to the point where you do not have an egg without a chicken, and you do not have a chicken without an egg. At no point will that work.
Well, God started it off at the in the first place. Well, then why did He need us to create other beings then?
Well, I don't look at it as necessarily a need for us to do that, but I look at, I guess, my philosophical attitude of like, what is our purpose? Like, why would we be here? Well, if the gradient is what we live in, and the total of all things is actually like basically all possibilities, all things, all knowledge, well, we have to exist because there is a difference between knowing a path and walking a path, and we exist in order to walk the paths that we each will walk.
Well, I remember you going on about that. You're saying when we die that it just loops over again.
Well, I was just saying as a possibility, what if it's only we experience time? What if all things exist at all times?
Yeah, that could be true because it goes into like deeper questions. What if because I mean, have you ever considered solipsism?
I'm not familiar with the term.
The belief that only you exist.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
because
I think
you can only be aware of your own existence, and that's the problem.
right, like you are, like some people even believe like they are the god trapped inside their own head or body. They will not be released till they die. The devil's playing a trick on them.
So that could be like a sort of some rabbit hole that people go down.
It could be, but I don't think that's what we're dealing with.
Well, an idea is that everyone else is me in some other life, possibly.
That would be interesting as well. I guess I don't know.
Because if all times are existing at once, then they could all be kind of merging with each other and
well, what if they already be
interacting
that
with
one
each other.
thing in the first place? Like, now you're back to where I was talking, where we're all part of the same thing. Like, there's no one person of you, even if it was all you, that would be the one that is the only you, the only type of you. Like, you would still be a piece of the total.
Yeah, I suppose it's like you're a part of everything and everything's a part of you, sort of thing.
Absolutely. So even if it is all a dream in your own head and you're really just a snail on some other planet or whatever you want to call it, or whatever, you're a sleeping elephant, I don't really care what you want to believe. The whole thing is still you. It's all still one thing. The whole dream is created from one thing, whatever. Maybe your dream or anyone else's. Anyway, give me 1 minute. I need to go away for a second.
All right, so, well.
All right. Well, my youngest son is now awake, so I'm going to be heading out to enjoy some local festivities.
All right.
I'll wait a couple minutes if you want to see if anybody else in the YouTube wants to come hang out, and I'll keep chatting for, like I said, minutes. Just while my wife gets him dressed, change the diaper, and all that.
Concave spherical glass sky, stationary, undeniable reality, folks. I mean, I've seen a while ago. I've seen these people who are pushing this LSC model, and
from my perspective on it, they have evidence which is very hard to deny. Like as far as like he actually did a couple good videos over the last month. He finally I was actually impressed. Like his Tamarack mine experiment video was well done, right? So I go, okay. And it shows that the French government had looked into trying to figure out the circumference of the Earth, trying to make their maps better, and they ended up with weird results. And they asked the U.S. government, and they did multiple tests down these mine shafts, and they came out with a concave result. And I look at it as like, yeah, I would expect that because the model I work with has that. But to jump to what LSC has as his model, based on that couple pieces,
would you never be able to measure it concave though?
No, they did measure it concave. They physically measured it concave.
But like, I don't really understand because you're able to like see that there if there was concave, then wouldn't you have like things visible a lot further away?
You would, except that we already know that gravity bends light. Like we see this with our solar eclipses. And if gravity that gets close to the Earth's surface is actually pulled down to the Earth because of it, you would still have a horizon.
So how can you measure it concave then?
Well, that's the thing with light. You wouldn't measure it concave at all. Like if you were using just light, it would end up measuring as a convex. Like it would seem like a globe, but it would be a much larger seeming globe based on what was measured because it wouldn't be 8 inches per mile squared.
Yeah, because people are looking for 8 inches per mile squared and finding almost no results, but some kind of argue that there might be a little bit of curve, and and that's
yes. Well, in a concave model, whether it's the way I view it with an infinite universe inside or cellular, the way light would be interacting in order to make the sunrise sunset that we see, you would have a slight measurable convex happening, but it would be very slight, way less than that. I'm talking like 8 inches in 100 miles instead of a mile. It would be a much smaller.
So you know when
almost flat.
planes fly, if they're when they have to do they'd actually do a less distance, wouldn't they? Because I don't know. I mean,
in a cellular concave, yes, they would do a slightly less distance because it's saying that the atmosphere is a smaller circle than the circle that is the globe. But in an infinite universe concave, the atmosphere is still larger than the surface of the globe as far as if you were to use it as a distance, measuring it with, say, a tape measure that was, say you were able to put a tape measure at the equator right on the ground, and then you put a tape measure 100 feet in the air around the entire equator, it would still measure larger inside the concave if it was a inverse universe. But it would measure smaller in a cellular concave, which is LSC small.
Well, obviously, it seems like your model's a bit complicated, so, some people are going to have a hard time understanding it.
Yes, I agree. I mean, Euclidean geometry is way more straightforward than non-Euclidean geometry, so yes. It should be, that's why one is taught in high school.
So you were saying you don't think that they're purposely trying to lie to us?
How do I put that? It's a matter of to what level are they trying to lie to us, right? Like, are they trying to deceive us for an actual purpose that is like they're trying to hide the shape of the world is like a very different question than are they trying to lie to us so they can steal our money? Like they might be feeding us some false data in order to
like NASA and stuff like that, kind of.
Well, I'm talking about NASA specifically. Like, let's say they believe we're on a globe, right? They start at that point, and they started 50 plus years ago at this point, well over 50 years now. But they start making these rockets. They're at the point where they think it's a globe, right? And basically they start faking stuff and they start taking our money, right? They want to pocket a bunch of free fucking money. It's Swiss bank account type thing. And then we start getting this other data that, hey, you guys might not be right. Well, they're going to give all their fakery, if it is fake, is based on them just lacing their pockets. So they just went with the globe that they assumed we'd pretty much settled on. They basically said, we'll call them a globe. It's a globe. We're going to do some fake shit in order to take your money. It wasn't to purposely go, oh, look, we hid the real shape of the earth from you. They're just thieves.
So you're thinking that they don't understand exactly what it is, possibly?
Yes, or it's a matter of they don't have it exact enough where they can call it, but they may even be leaning toward another model. And because they've already done enough fakery where they go, ooh, we've already said it had to be this, and this is how we've stolen all this money. We don't want to say, oh yeah, well, oops, we fucked up. They just want to go, we'll just leave that.
So you don't think there's people purposely trying to program people and feed people lies and and feed people with like toxic food and stuff. It's like,
of course there's people trying to do that, but I look at it.
Do you think that it's all separate? Do you think there's all?
I look at it as the bad boss attitude. Like, we've all had that shitty boss, the boss who has no care about humanity whatsoever, will do anything shisty in order to look like he's a good boss to an owner or anything else, to keep his position, to undercut the competition, whatever it may be. And yeah, there's definitely controlling factors like that. Like, why do they put shitty stuff in our food or even sell stuff that's not food as food to people? Because they make more money, and they're just sociopaths. Like, you can look into how, it's something like 1 out of every 25 males in America is a sociopath. So these people have no empathy for other human beings whatsoever. They don't give a fuck.
But you don't believe in the NWO, for instance?
No, and you would still have these big groups of sociopaths that get together and go, hey, let's conspire a little bit to help fuck people over in order to keep us even wealthier and more in control. Sure, but do I think it's so it has to be this is the people in charge? No, it's same as Rome or any other. The machine's in charge, right? Like, capitalism as a system is what is making this happen. Like, it's the effect. Like, it's inevitable to happen. It's human nature.
Yeah, I think it's just something that we can't necessarily stop it, but if we have the knowledge, we can possibly control it. Do you think?
I've noticed, if you're looking at historically, the way that systems have basically not continued is they either change that system by small adjustments or a new system, which is an institution which can actually, once it has its foothold, can overtake the other institution, replaces it. So if people think it's just going to go away because we decide it's going to go away, that's never going to happen. Or at least, okay, I'll put it, it's never going to happen, but it doesn't happen. It hasn't happened. Sure, the possibility's there, but you're betting on a very unlikely outcome. The odds are long for such a thing to work.
So you don't believe in depopulation or anything like that, do you?
That they're trying to intentionally depopulate?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure there's definitely a large group of people that pull levers in order to make that more likely, like to help make depopulation happen. And it doesn't have to be like the levers people think like, oh, they're trying to kill us all. They're trying to pull, like, it could be simple things like, okay,
But-
like C-sections, right? Like they go, look, we make more money when we do a C-section versus like natural births. The doctors can be in and out of there. It's easier scheduling. We can make more money by doing a C-section on a woman on her first child, which they try to do that to everybody in the U.S. at this point. They make more money. And a nice side effect is, hey, we help depopulate because that woman, if she gets pregnant again, has to have another C-section. And if she gets pregnant again, she has to have another C-section. Once you've had one, you got to have that with all your kids. So a woman's way less likely to choose to have another child once she's had a couple and it's C-sections and she's just like, fuck that, I don't want to go through another C-section. And you also have like birth control, right? Like I'm saying, yes, we have legislation that allows for the pill or whatever it may be, or abortions or anything else. Yeah, there are people who are pushing those agendas who just, they may want depopulation. Like, sure, is it a big conspiracy that like all of these higher ups want that? No, but they'll trade votes. There's a bunch of them who don't give a fuck, and they'll be like, hey, you really care about that? Okay, I'll vote for that for you if you help me sell this fake ass food that I can make a bigger profit margin on. And they just, one hand washes the other, and they both fuck everybody, and the result is you eat shittier food and have less children. That's why the serpent has so many heads. You can't just chop off a head.
Yeah, that's true. It's like you got to see the bigger picture, haven't you, and see that so there's things that are interlinked, like that they're trying to conspire, like because they have an easier job if they all work together.
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't even have to. Like I said, when you talk about sociopath, they don't care as long as the agenda they want is achieved. They don't care about every. They don't have a stance on every last issue. So yeah, it's very likely. Like they've already done, big studies on like what jobs are these types of people drawn to. And being a politician is very high up the list. They're drawn to power. So sometimes when you take a shit, some of that shit floats and it floats right to the top. Those are our politicians.
So you're going, because you said about gravity, right? Because you say you don't believe it in the way that the heliocentrists believe it.
I just don't believe it's been proven the way they say it's been proven. Like if you're inside of what I think's going on, there can be a very much a buoyancy factor. It can be a lot more electromagnetic than we're being told. It could be even on like a atomic scale of like the attractions between, like that could be what's doing it. And yes, that could be considered a gravitational force, particle to particle like that. But to attribute it all to gravity as far as we see it now, that's a stretch. Like that's.
Well, I think that the idea that it's a curvature of space time is really preposterous to me. It just doesn't make any sense to me that if everything's supposed to all be moving in these chaotic then it would be really chaotic, wouldn't it? It wouldn't just be this kind of like it would be like constantly changing, and it would just everything would be getting in the way of it. And it seems like
I look at it.
There'd be a more straightforward explanation to it, really.
Well, their explanation doesn't work. I mean, honestly, I look at it as like there's no way.
It has to be more straightforward, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, but I that's what I'm saying. I think it's a space gradient. Like once you have the gradient and you use non-Euclidean geometry, that's it. That's the only thing you need. The rest of that is all bullshit. That's how I view it. Like everything else they've said, oh, we need special relativity. Like, no, if you have a space gradient where things are getting smaller like that, it actually works like far better with quantum mechanics mathematically than what you're currently using.
So, there's things like the globers say about, the star rotations. I mean, that must work in your model because it's just inverted.
Well, when we look at like, okay, let's say we observe another galaxy and you go, hey, look, it's spinning at this speed. this stuff should be flying away, but it's not. So there must be dark matter and dark energy. Well, I go, well, yeah, duh. It's called the fucking ether. Like, we already knew it was there. You guys say it's not based on one test, but that test could say there's an ether and the Earth is not moving through space.
So did you think did you think Tesla was like an honest man then?
Yeah, I think Tesla was doing his best to explain what he could out of the data he was able to gather.
But you think they tried to sort of co-opt it, I suppose?
They try to co-opt anything that could be to their benefit. I mean, it's always going to happen. There's always somebody, and I don't know what you mean by they, but
Well, I mean, suppose they is
yes,
just narcissistic people, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I guess the way to put it is like when we look at Einstein and we go, hey, look, he was the biggest genius ever attitude. It's, if you believe in the globe, all these people, yeah. Well, why? Well, he basically made something that didn't work with something else that we can observe of both work together again with a theory that we can't prove. And they go, yeah, see, so that's how it's working because we still assume it's a ball. And I go, no, it's not a ball. So none of that's relative whatsoever. Like you shouldn't like this. This is he basically figured out what the holding place or the unprovable factor is in order to make things work together again for their model. But it's like, yeah, like even Tesla said that's bullshit. Like that's not how science works.
Yeah. So because you were saying that the globe has points, the flat Earth has points and the concave has points, and you seem to like mix them all together.
Well, it's not about mixing it all together. It's about if I have a piece of data, and I'll start with LSC, and I say, okay, look, they physically measured stuff. They used plumb bobs down mine shafts and measured the string at the top, and they measured it pretty much damn near a mile below ground inside the mine, and they measured where the distance between the strings were. And they were expecting them to be closer together inside the mine to prove the Earth, not prove the Earth as a globe. They actually just wanted to make their maps better in order to like get a better diameter of exactly what the globe is. And they went, oh shit, it's going the opposite direction. It's actually wider at the bottom than it is at the top. I go, yeah, and that's a piece of evidence. It doesn't prove anything yet, but it's a piece of evidence. And I go, it was done by a French government and the United States government, and they did it 3 different times in the US. Like it was all in that mine, but they used different plumb bobs, different materials, things of that nature in order to test it. And they kept measuring the same. And they go, okay, so what models work with that piece of evidence? And I go, okay, I only got these 2. And I go, okay, next thing. We can see way further than we should be able to, on the surface. And they go, okay, the globe has a theory. So I don't even know if I'd even call it necessarily like that. It's working due to atmospheric lensing and atmospheric refraction going on. You go, okay, but you can't really prove that. Like that's not actually like when they say, well, we observe it, so it must be. I go, no, you're not proving that that's why you observe it. So I kind of put that as it kind of works, but not really. It doesn't prove that it works. And they go, what about seeing further on flat? Well, of course, yep, that works for that. And how does it work in these models? Yes, it works in that. So I started slowly stacking each piece of evidence that way. Like if we send something way into space, which we claim we've done, like, we have multiple governments around the world saying we've done it. We look back, it's a globe. And I go, well, which of these models allows for that? And I have the one I'm working with. And I have a globe that would live on a ball. And there's multiple globe models. You got geocentrism, heliocentrism. I say, okay, so what models work for that? And I just take all the pieces of evidence. And I go, okay, when I'm done, what do I have left? Like flat earthers made all these points. They act like this only works on flat earth. No, it works on these, but not this. And the globe say, what about this? We have this evidence. I go, well, that works with these, but not these. And same thing with concave. And I go, okay, what model works? And that's why I believe in the model that I currently work with, because every piece of evidence, I don't have one against this. That's how I keep ending up with an
yeah, because the thing that kind of makes me think that it could be possible is that because if it's just inverted in the globe, then all the the maths and everything would just work out perfectly. Because
that guy in Egypt already did the inverted geometry for it and showed it could be done. Like mathematically, this can work. And
I suppose the thing with maths is that if you're starting from a false axiom, it can be it can come out with the wrong results. So
it depends how far off you are, right? Like if you start walking in a straight line and you're going from your house to a building that you can see across the valley, and you're walking in a straight line toward it, you go, I'm going to say that's perfectly straight, and you start walking toward it, and you close your eyes basically, and you started walking, and you weren't quite perfectly straight. You'd start getting a little off. Well, then you open your eyes and you see you're a little off, and you make the slight adjustment, and you make it to the building. That same type of thing could be happening with satellites, rockets. We know they make adjustments when they say they send them into space. Like we see the same thing happen with boats. They go, oh look, oh we thought we were right on course, but these stars that we're using say, oh we need to make a slight adjustment, and they end up hitting their
So
destination.
why is there? Because in your model there is no barrier between the two, opposing pressure systems.
Correct.
So how does that work then?
Well, I don't look at space as a vacuum.
So what do you
look at
think it is then?
No, I do believe there is an ether, a cosmological constant. Call it dark matter, call it ether, call it dark energy. It's all throughout space. It may actually be, and let me put it like this. If we've already shown that there are particles that exist that go through walls, like even a sound wave can go through a wall, but we actually have particles that can go between other particles, even though, and they say most of what we see is space. Like your wall might have 90% space, but because of the connections between the particles and the connections between the particles in your hand, you can't put your hand through the wall. But there are particles that will go right through that wall without even slowing down. And if space is made of these particles, then if you try to put it in a jar, it went right through that jar. You can't bring it back to Earth because if you believe it's buoyancy, like a flat earther, it would go right out of the jar the second you brought the jar back down to Earth.
I was just thinking, because you still believe the sun is where they say it is, or roughly, but how come when people send these balloons up, it appears to get lower and lower down?
Well, I believe the sun is it's still, I believe it's closer than what is stated.
Well, you were saying it's about 50 million miles or something.
Yeah, still, I'm saying, yeah, the rough guess. I haven't done the exacts of where it would be yet.
But it would always seem to be that same angle in the sky, wouldn't it?
Well, how do I put it? In a concave, because the light is bending with the shape of the Earth, if you're getting higher and higher up, more of the light that didn't make it to the Earth is bending back up at you. That would be coming from the sun. So the sun could be sending it down 49 million miles at a very extreme angle, and then it barely bends up towards you.
So do you think it has something to do with the atmosphere?
Not so much the atmosphere as far as gravity. What we see is gravity effect on light. And I use gravity loosely because I don't use it like a heliocentric. It's some combination of, or even maybe not even a combination. It just has something to do with electromagnetism, buoyancy, or maybe a direct gravitational pull, which could be a separate force, but it hasn't been proven to be. So I'm just saying, as the force that we know is gravity from the heliocentric model, we know that it bends light. So if light is being bent, if it's light that goes slightly below you, that's going at it's not quite a 180 angle. It gets bent back up to you because you're so far into the universe. The sun would look lower and lower the higher up you go. You could even see a globe in front of the sun transversing based on how that light bends. It would look like you saw a globe go right in front of the sun if you were deep enough into space, even though that globe is the shell.
Right. Well, people are going about how stars seem to disappear at a certain altitude. Do you think that's true?
Yes, because they need a medium to hit in order for your eye to pick it up. So if you're going higher and higher and the air is getting thinner and thinner, the least bright stars will start to fade out first until you go so high that you cease to see stars.
So basically,
which is
stars like Venus, for instance, will be like the last to, and the moon seems to get smaller at a higher altitude. But the sun seems to stay big though. Is that just because it's so bright and it?
Well, I don't know if it's about brightness as much as it is distance from the Earth itself. Because if you had light bending, the further something away is before the light even got to where you would have seen it from the Earth versus higher up, the difference as far as degrees would be a lot smaller from anything further away than something that was close. So I think you would see the moon, the effect from the moon well sooner than you would, like the visible effect on the moon versus the sun way sooner the higher up you got.
All
right. Anyway, it doesn't look like anybody's going to join you yet. I think the fam's about ready.
I thought you said you were going to get going or something.
That's what I'm saying. They're ready now, man. I was hoping someone would jump in here so you could continue on with whatever they want to talk about. I don't know. Next time, I might even pop in back later if you still got this stream going. I don't know if you're doing the full 8 hours or.
No, I'm going to be on for about another 3 hours, maybe at the most. Well, I might not even be. It just depends if anyone wants to come in for a bit. But it makes me think I'm not like one of those dogmatic people who will just throw everything at out because it doesn't fit my.
Yeah,
Because
you're definitely
I admit that the Globe believer seem to have some good points because they go on about how the geometry of it. That if you was to go 10,000 miles and then turn 90 degrees and then go another 10,000 miles and then go another turn 90 degrees, then go another 10,000 miles, then you create a equilateral triangle. But that would also work on a concave model as well because it's just inverted.
Well, yeah, if you're looking at, let me see. I'm trying to make sure I got this correct. If you went 10,000 miles straight up, or are you talking just on the surface?
And what about as in measuring it on the surface? Because if it's bending upwards as opposed to down, then it's just the same thing. It's still it's still going to create that equilateral triangle. It's just going to be bent the other way, isn't it? So I mean, star trails would work in that model. What else?
Yeah. You'd have your southern pole spin.
Yeah, South Pole, Sigma Octantis, which I've never actually seen. So, but what else is there? I'm not sure really. What do you think about theodolites? Because the Globers like to talk about those things.
I think they would have no way of having any. Like, basically, the thing about this is the exact map they use would work the same way in what I'm talking. You wouldn't be able to know you're not in a globe, like, or on a globe. It's kind of like if you draw.
They seem to be sure that they can get exact calculations of the horizon dropping, for instance.
You're talking from their satellite?
Well, theodolites, whatever you want to call it. The surveying instruments that apparently they use to detect the declination drop, because they say, well, we can figure out that it's actually 1 degree of drop per 69 miles.
Well, I'll put it like this: if you were on two parallel lines according to non-Euclidean geometry, which basically looks like two curved lines that are actually parallel, and you assumed you were in a Euclidean geometry world, if it was a concave, you would end up thinking it was a globe, exactly the opposite of that concave.
Why is that then?
Because you would be taking the non-Euclidean geometry arc of the two circles that were next to each other that were parallel and making them into what we see as straight lines in Euclidean geometry. And
but you said you'd almost be able to measure it flat for like long distance.
If you were to measure, say, let me put it like if you do a laser experiment over water, like we've seen before, I do not believe you will find your 8 inches. You will find, because there's still a gravitational pull toward the Earth or the shell or whatever you want to call it, and it's bending it into the Earth. So light is actually being pulled to the Earth until it hits the Earth, even though it's also being pulled back in that arc toward the center. It'll still hit the concave. So it would measure almost flat if you were to do any light experiment. Like it might still measure that slight convex, but it would be so small there would be no way of registering.
So when the globe earthers are like, why is there obstruction of buildings? So how do you explain that then?
What do you mean obstructions of buildings?
Like over large distances on water, for instance, where like the bottom of Chicago skyline being hidden.
Okay, well, say that you have the bottom of that skyline, right? Light's coming to it, it's bouncing off that building, it's bouncing toward you. Now, the concave the gravity is pulling that light to the surface ever so slightly. And at some point it hits the surface, which is why you would have a horizon inside a concave, because that's where the light stops. Like, all light past that is being pulled either to the Earth and hitting the Earth, or going above your head up into space. Like, it's not hitting your eyesight level. So when you get so far out, you say there's the skyline, the bottom of it would disappear because that light has been bent to the point where it hit the water. It slightly would get bent downward, and everything that same point that bounced off that would have hit your eye, or would be identical coming. How do I put it? If it was at a straight line toward your eye, it would have been bent upward toward your head or down to the ground at that point. Like, you will lose the bottom of the building, but it is not at the rate that the globe says.
Yeah, you think that you should be able to see the bottoms of them even more than on say a flat Earth.
No, because the light is still being pulled. Like a flat Earth assumes that gravity has no effect, right? So light that comes off of that building is not pulled to the surface of the Earth in a flat Earth model. The light bounces off the building, comes straight back to your eye. There is no gravitational effect on that light.
Well, the flat Earth explanation is due to atmospheric lensing. So do you not think that's a factor?
It would still be a factor in this, yes, because if the light was bending identically back off the building toward your eye and it came back to you and it was being bent in a way that it was perfectly level on non-Euclidean geometry, as you had perspective in going outward and you had the lensing of the atmosphere, you would end up with the same result that a flat earther did. But I gotta go.
Well, it's been good talking, yes. But yeah, I mean, it's just something to think about, isn't it? So yeah, you're welcome anytime.
Like I said, if this runs late, I might just pop back in just to show you. I will not talk of my model at that point. I will only talk about some of the stuff I found against heliocentrism if I get time.
Right.
Against the globe. So all the flat earthers like Pete that's out in the YouTube chat can at least use what I've found as ammo against the globe.
Well, he doesn't think you're legit, but you don't mind that, do you?
I don't care.
We'll find out in the end, hopefully.
he's just some random guy to me, just like I'm some random guy to him. Whatever.
Yeah.
He can have his opinion. I don't mind. Anyway, I'll catch you later, G. Thanks for letting me come in for a while.
Well, I think Pete's after in, so
Yeah, if you bring Pete in now, just talk about me the whole time. I'll start trashing on it. But that's okay. Go for it. Let him do it. It'll give me a reason to watch the rest of this later. So, right on, man. Appreciate it. Catch you later.
Yeah, Pete's. All right. If anyone else wants a link, I'll grab your link. So, how you doing, Teddy Carroll? So I'll just grab Pete's share link. So I'll just be a minute. We send it to the usual place. Right, Pete. Okay, send you the link. Right. So I'll just. As I was mentioning before, I've signed up to this so it's not new, I don't know how old it is, but it's this other platform I'm going to start putting videos out on. So there's a link to my account in the description. It's called VidMe. It's not as popular as YouTube, but, just another platform to kind of talk about this stuff on, isn't it? So, Padawan, there could be a convention in March, so keep your eyes open, guys. It will be in Birmingham. Well, that'll be pretty long off that, but almost a year away.
How you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing all right. So you calmed down after last night, then?
I always calm, Jamie. I stand over everything I say, of course, but I'm just laughing to myself there. Look at the amount of speculation that you have to entertain Arlen von Vicious's mod. I mean, he sort of has an answer for everything, but it still doesn't quite ring true.
Well, what do you think when you were saying about the sort of the mine experiment?
What was that? I was going to say the Tavistock mine, but that's not it.
Apparently, about drilling down a mile and then finding that there was the results were actually the opposite to the globe.
A divergence, wasn't it?
It was wider or something, and it should have been less wide.
Right. No, I don't place any stead in any of these experiments. To stand alone, anyway, it's not just a matter of it's a ball or it's flat. There's different forces at work here, Jamie. My own thoughts would be that everything is falling to a point about 20 miles below, to a null zone, if you will, because we're under this magnetic field, this massive magnetic field. But one thing taken alone will never prove anything. As regards, you asked a great question there, and why does the sun appear to drop as you rise, and why do the stars disappear?
Yeah, and his answer was gravity, of course.
Well, or some form or format of it, and it's fine.
Well, he believes it,
but we couldn't like him.
Maybe not all what we're being told, as in it's more, maybe somewhat to do with electromagnetism. That's what he said.
But more than that, he's mixing and just dark matter-ish sort of stuff. So what he's doing is he's introducing new unknowns or unknowables into the equation, and and coming out with coherent. He's clearly intelligent and able to answer somewhat your any questions posed, but it doesn't stand up to major scrutiny for me anyway. And it
So
takes you.
where do you think it goes wrong then with what his explanations are?
The sun is at 93 million miles away, Jamie. You're not talking the distances. He's a sort of a melding of all the models. The concave with its sort of enclosed finite area, the flat Earth, which has different intermediate potentials, and then the globe Earth, of course, which goes on forever and ever. He's a mix of everything, and I think ultimately what he said is powering everything is if you squash everything, infinity into zero space. This is in operation at some sort of center / non-center. I mean, I'm kind of making fun of it there, but it's something along those lines. And no, this is not where you need to go. Occam's razor, in a sense, needs to be employed not in one big sense. And here's the contradiction, Jamie. I think a lot is understandable, but we are still in this sort of realm of wonders, where there are so many different fantastical forces at play. We all admit that we are in a created realm, and now if we admit
but when you say it's a created realm, then that could be speculation, because it's like, well, what makes you say it's just not always existed?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. At some point, we have to make a call. We can't just keep going blindly and nondescriptly through everything. I think in terms of our own investigative route forward, because this is what it's about, us finding out the truth about a greater story here, and maybe ultimately about ourselves if we're lucky enough. But we have to make a call at some stage. We can't just keep. We can be apathetic, like I'm not apathetic about important issues. And last night for me, Jamie, I think we all should be passionate about the stuff that I was expecting passion about. Fraudulent government, fraudulent prime minister, fraudulent terror hoaxes, and again.
But what's the kind of what's the significance of all this? Like what if somebody turns out to be a tranny? What's that going to actually? How is that going to benefit us?
It's all about individuals, but in general, this is deception, Jamie. So if a deception is exposed, right, just in general, if deception is exposed, first of all, it prevents further deception. No community wants deception as a sort of.
But why would they put out trannies as prime ministers and things? What's the purpose of that?
Well, you can be sure it's a reality, but I could talk about this, Jamie. I could give you my thoughts and views on that. Again, some people want to hear some things, other people don't want to hear other things, and that's not the way I operate. So I'm going to start up my own hangouts pretty soon, Jamie. I reckon, not just hangout, just whatever, you know what I mean. But at least I'll be able to talk about with more now, and this has nothing to do with what happened here, because I'm well used to all of this sort of stuff, but I understand as well people are at different stages, and also people's personalities will clash, so all of these things put together will cause friction. It's bound to anyway. We can see it across the hangout. There's always some drama or other, but
because like earlier on in were you watching Punch or Pete's hangout earlier, and there was someone on it. There's a Space Cowboy and James somebody and
Jimbo. Yeah.
No, not him.
Okay.
And they were arguing over whether Trump is actually whether he's actually on our side or not. Well, I'd say, well, if you really think he's on our side, then you truly haven't woken up. Either that or they're pushing an agenda.
Well, I mean, Jamie, here we go again. There's so many unknowns. I mean, who is Trump? There's more suspected transgenderism. The daughter there is, and who's playing it. I don't pay any attention to this nonsense anymore. Again, it's all actors for me, but I'd be coming at it from a different position than you would say. And then the two guys were today. Was it a heated argument, Jamie, they were having?
A little bit. It was like, I mean,
was it as heated as the argument we had here last night? Like, did someone whip out a guitar and start singing?
No, No, it was just like that Space Cowboy got a bit passionate. That's all, because he thought, Donald Trump was just, another plant, another puppet.
Well, absolutely, of course he is. I'm with Space Cowboy. I don't know too much about him. He's the he's the guy on the bed, isn't it? He's
that was right. It was just let down and just like
he seems to be very knowledgeable, and there's a few knowledgeable people around that are definitely worth hearing. And the problem with all of this is that people are getting into the debate when it should be more about discussion. Again, here's the thing, Jamie, and I keep having to say this, like, I've been doing this, I've been having these type of discussions for ages, so when I'm reporting, if you will, I'm talking about where I'm at in terms of my own investigation into all of this, so I would have left a whole hell of a lot behind, or skimmed over a whole hell of a lot, or made apparently little out of large thing. 9/11, for instance, been a media hoax. That's just a gimme now at this stage, because so when I say that, though, it causes uproar, even though I wouldn't be the first to say that, or nor will I be the last, especially on flat Earth now. But you know what I mean. So loads of stuff are skipped over, and then when it appears that I've been flippant about these things, that tends to cause a bit of argument. And then you're asked for proof, and then you have to go through a whole different area where you weren't intending to go in the first place, and you don't get a chance to talk about what you really want to talk about. I mean, I said it to you before, Jamie. From my own position, I understand exactly what happened, on the day, or what was reported to us. But I also think I understand the ritualistic or the symbolic, and I don't get to talk about that. So maybe on my own channel, on my own hangout, that I can expand on that, because that's the real story. If you take the first layer presented to us, you get lost in the drama, you get lost in the literal, but then there's always deeper meanings, and this is where the truth is hidden, if you will, in plain sight usually, but it's never on it's on the superficial first layer, but I don't know, there's always a twist. You know what I mean? The truth is simple, but it's always a windy road that takes you there. Yeah.
Well, so I wanted to kind of focus on some of the things that Ireland was saying about the chicken and the egg thing, and how the way he thought about the creation and all that, and I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's another one of those. I mean, there's no answer to that question really, and that's where you get lost in. You come out none the wiser with these type of discussions. This is what I'm talking about, Jamie. And whether Arlen Van Vish is another actor for me, and he do what he do. So I'm not going to get too involved. His model is interesting, and definitely if you were doing nothing else, it's an interesting sort of journey into again, I wrote in chat there, he's a Stephen Christ light. That's what he is, you know what I mean? He's sort of in between all the different models, but he can definitely represent the model eloquently. But you come out none the wiser. So chicken and egg.
Alternative cosmology gateway model.
I mean, no. And Jamie, you made a good point about the moon, and I said,
he was saying that the stars disappear because of because it was the medium that hits it. Well, we believe that as well. So but about the sun seems to get bigger as you get towards it.
Right. Whereas the planets, and I'm going to say the planets as well, the stars, and you mentioned the moon as well, Jamie, seem to get smaller and I reckon and I've said this before, if as you go higher and higher, the moon should disappear. The moon should get smaller and smaller, no matter how well you timed, the balloon to be at its highest point, in its close point to the moon as it rose. The moon would always tend to get smaller and smaller, and I think at a certain point, about 150,000 feet, maybe the moon would just vanish completely, because you're dealing with lights, you're dealing with observer-dependent sort of. Now the atmosphere does come into it as well, but there's a source for these lights, Jamie. You see, that's why the sun is the source, and that's why it doesn't disappear. So you should expect any model. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for anybody, but certainly on the globe model, there's absolutely no reason why the moon should disappear. It should get massive, like really, or it should remain substantial anyway. If it's a ball in space, you know what I mean. There's no reason why it should disappear. So that would be a very interesting experiment in itself if someone was to do that. Because for me, it would confirm what I think anyway. But it would in itself, it's a good experiment to partake in. You know, a revealing experiment. But
Right.
but it's like that is why I compared it to Jamie. Reflected light. It's all reflected light, and it's observer dependent. It's like shining a laser in a mirror, and you mightn't see it until you walk into its path. You know what I mean? The minute you walk out of its path, you won't see it again. It's this sort of thing, you know. It's observer dependent, and that's how the sun works as well, and that's how you get sundown and sunrise and sunset. It's all about the angle that. You see, this is the thing. Perspective applies above. We have to bear that in mind, you know. And I mentioned about the cap.
So how would you explain star trails in your model then?
Well, it's not really my model, but it's star trails. Everything's connected to the sun, so the stars are
because the globe believers think it's like, you know, it's exclusive to the ball model.
Well, there's truth in every lie. You see, what the globe has done is taken the truth, flipped it 180 degrees. You know, for the most part. I think the more important the truth, the more that rule applies. But so the stars being suns is on one level correct for me. That the stars are artifacts of the sun, all about the sun. And again, you have to. Here's the thing where I heard you talking about triangulation, Jamie. How can you triangulate a light that's observer dependent? You can't do it. The math don't work like that. And that's where the 3000. That's what the ballers are all. And you know, I've gone past this obviously, but the ballers are always dying to get in with. Well, flat earthers say that the sun is 3,000 miles away. No, well, you know, some flat earthers do, but that's based on.
Some say it's even closer.
Well, this is the point. The 3,000 is based on triangulation and a near and a circling sun. But when you're dealing again, but the sun isn't defined. What exactly the sun is, that's not defined. And if you're not defining that, well, then you're bound to be being led astray, you know, in your own thinking. And yeah, it's a basic question that we have difficulty answering, and we know it's not the ball explanation model or model explanation, but what is it then? It's something else. If it's a light, if it's a moving projection light of some sort of sort that we are unfamiliar with, well, how can you calculate in terms of traditional geometry? You can't do it. Trigonometry, you can't do it, you know. So yeah, and I'm one of those, Jamie. Everything is right there, you know. Everything is. You mentioned 69 miles, and that's longitude comes into it as well. Now, here's another point about a compass. I'm just thinking about this. If we don't live in a ball in the first place, you know, imagining anything to do with a ball is fantasy. So it needs to be thrown out, just pretty much completely. Here's where latitude and longitude lines come in. Now, I know, Jamie, you're in. Where did you say you were? Burnley, is it?
Blackburn. It's not so far from Burnley, but yeah.
Yeah, Blackburn. So I know you're in Blackburn, right? I'm in Limerick. I'm on Limerick, or whatever, you know. I'm on Limerick. But I know if I was to give my best guess, which way, Jamie, let's imagine you're pretty much at the same level as I'm at, you know, in terms of your geographical location, you know, maybe 20 feet above the ground, generally level ground. Now, if I prescribe a circle like this, I have, you know, if you want to put it, 360 chances of being right if I want to divide it into 1 degree each time, you know, to point at Jamie. But I'm absolutely certain that one of those pointings is the closest, you know what I mean? So I know that if I followed that line all the way, if I went up my space boots and followed that line all the way, I'd eventually arrive at Jamie, you know, exactly there. Now, if we were living on a ball, you see, I couldn't point in any direction like this. I'd have to point downward, and the further you were away from me, the more downwards I'd have pointed.
Yeah. The bowlers would be like, well, it's because gravity, you know, and all that.
Well, I mean, this is what you know. It's it's nonsense. It's an offence to the senses, and you agree with me as well, Jamie. I'm sure that if you were to point someone, you were to try and point in my direction as close as you could, that I would be in one fixed direction as opposed to another. You wouldn't have to, in a linear fashion as well, you wouldn't have to point down at all. So again, it's just another one of those things that goes against your sense.
We're just told to like ignore our senses and just in favor of some authority.
Here's why the Nile flows from east to west. East is one direction, just like Jamie is one fixed direction. So east will always be one direction. West will always be one direction. Now, if you think about the ball and where east, you would never know where to point to east, because east is supposed to be going around, west is going around the other way. You would never know which part of east you point to. The far end of east, the near end of east. You know what I mean? So this is where the Nile flows from, literally east to west. Remember I was saying about the dodo bird and the chessboard. If you overlay the chessboard, you have the grid arrangement of the flat Earth, because every point is in a straight line from every other point. And east is east and west is west. And it's not dependent on the cardinal compass point. They're more set than that. So we have to change our way of thinking about everything. But again, all of this is known. All of this is well known. They all know that the Earth is flat and stationary, known from the get-go. So what's happening now is it's been revealed. And the time is ripe, I guess. You can ask yourself why. Well, I think this is why. I think for the individual, this is what it's all about. The individual, that we have to consider pertinent issues that are associated with flat Earth. Like, again, that's my own. I didn't spend any time on the Manchester hoax. I just knew straight away it was a hoax. But I think we need.
You didn't auto hoax it though, did you?
I did, Jamie. Yeah.
As in, like, just it must be a hoax. So you just, it's a bit dangerous doing that, because it's like
at this stage, yeah, it's I've just gone beyond that. I know that when I'm going to look into it.
Well, I suppose the kind of explanation for why it happened kind of doesn't make any sense. It's like someone would just go out and do that stuff when and the people they'll be like, why? I mean, they must have been brainwashed to do that. And the last question is like, what? But if it was a hoax, then it throws all that out. So, but I don't know if it. I mean, I weren't there, so I don't know either way. But people have some evidence that they think that my kind of kind of point to it being a hoax. But there seems to be an increase of these events happening, and it is interesting when someone said about the 22nd of May that it happened. 22 people killed and all these coincidences.
Catch 22, Jamie. Catch 22 on all sides. And of course, you had the May Queen. I had mentioned that beforehand, that Theresa May is the May Queen. May because of the surname and because of the month, and then Queen because the drag queen. So this is how they make. And it's like, actually, it's like NASA these days, and the shit they're producing, both in terms of visuals from the distant planets and stuff they produce from the ISS as well. It's clearly and obviously fraudulent, Jamie. So it's the same with their hoaxes. It's just becoming more and more apparent, and why people aren't expressive of at least some sort of firm opinion on it, I don't know. I think there's no excuse at this stage game. They faked on fucking Earth, for God's sake. So there's potentially the potentiality there for them to fake any news story. And when you look into Manchester on the very surface, you can see that you're dealing with hoax. So I don't know what else to say about that. I don't like lies, first of all. If I knew you were lying to me, Jamie, deliberately, and I'm not going to talk about anyone else.
Well, I don't know whether it's a coincidence or not. The Manchester begins with M13.
Well, you can be sure Manchester was chosen long since for this event, and I think someone was mentioning that the timing. There was a big game, European football game. This is all advertised advertising as well, Jamie, because remember, if you step back and think about it, well, no one is dying here. What this ties in what you were saying about Trump. See, we don't know the players or the actors on the stage. We don't know what the overall game is. So who are we supposed to know who's playing the good guy, who's playing the bad guy? I absolutely agree that Trump was chosen to be president of the corporation, of course. That's all these people are. They have no authority over anybody.
President Evil.
There you go, man. Or Donald Duck Trump. Of course, I will use that. I will use that like I use Admiral Byrd to tie in with the dodo.
Trump card.
Well,
I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, you have the connection with Biff Tanner in Back to the Future with Trump. So this is all scripted. He was picked president since at least the 9/11 hoax. He was part and parcel of. And see, that's a big statement in itself, Jamie. I know it's so, but it would just cause controversy. You'd be fighting all night with some because of to say that. I have to explain where I came from with that. And again, you don't have to. No one has to take anyone's word. Like Arlen Van Vicious said there, I'm just another whatever. Nobody, a stranger. Don't have to take anything anyone says seriously or too hard. But yeah.
So you think he's a plant then? So why would you think that then?
He's absolutely a plant, man. He's
so what's his purpose then?
Well, this is it, Jamie. What is the greater game? What is the greater game? Everything sort of changed on 9/11. So again, there's a pathway has been set out, and there is a fixed date. What is the greater game? We're going through an awakening now, like never before, I suppose. More and more people are snapping out of it. I guess the numbers are growing. Flat Earth is the big catalyst here. I think there's no going back from Flat Earth, and a date has been preset. So I'm not the doom and gloom guy. Of course, life is difficult. Life is very difficult, but who knows where we're coming from? Who knows where we're going, and who knows what we're actually all about? First of all, life is life. If we think about life, take a step back. Life is uneventful for the most part. What the drama is in our minds, and we create it. So we're sort of snapped out of the fog as well with Flat Earth, Jamie. Realize the whole world of potentials or possibilities. So this is what we might be coming to terms with, reckoning with as well. This is what it might all be about. But that's down to the individual. You might have a completely different view of where you think this is all going, or what do you think this is all about.
Well, so Stealthy 300 saying, I think Pete is a plant.
Yeah, what's a plant? Well,
I suppose you've got to accept, someone else's, kind of accusations if you're going to throw them out, I suppose.
I would ask him. Oh, absolutely, Jamie. I mean, I don't take any offense at anyone asking. I know what I am. I would ask him, what am I protecting? I mean, I generally found anyone I've identified as an actor, and I could identify more, and I will identify.
He's saying that you answer questions with questions.
Right, so that's what I would ask you is, if I am a plant, and as I said, I identified actors by what they won't talk about. What is it that I won't talk about? Can you tell me what I'm afraid to talk about? Or how would you identify me as a plant? Why would you classify me as a plant? What would make you think? So that's the question. Back to, and there are more than one ways to answer a question as well. Sometimes answering a question with a question is the best way to answer a question. So it's great the way everyone thinks that they can tell someone how to be, how to think, how to talk, how to answer. I never assumed that about anybody. And again, Jamie, if Mick was the judge here, you wouldn't have had that conversation with Arlen Van Vicious, because you can't prove anything. So into wild speculation. That's wild speculation beyond any speculation that I've ever gone into. All of the speculation I go into is based on me putting together the best picture in my own head, which incorporates everything that we.
Well, I suppose when people think, well, about the dodo and all that, and some might not think that's
that's not my fault, Jamie. I have much more to say on the dodo, and once again, the dodo's out there now. The dodo's out of the bag, so I don't mind about that. That doesn't. That person, whoever said that, they're just at a stage of not understanding. So that's fine. But yeah, that's something I would do well to just probably expand in my own time, in my own in my own hangout. And I like playing music as well, Jamie, so I can throw in a few songs into my own mix, which would be sort of eclectic, you know. So yeah, interesting times. Everything is hotting up, I think, as well, Jamie. You know what I mean? If everything's pre-scripted, and here's the way I look at it now: all the old has to be collapsed. You know, it just has to be collapsed because it's all fabricated. So if this was just sort of a stopgap between rebuilding, I always said that there's a different reality going on, sort of adjacent to ours, and that's in terms of people with inside information, people access to hidden technologies, all of this sort of stuff beyond our reckoning, our imaginations, I think. And yeah, if we're just in here in this fabricated box, I guess maybe one for the purposes of protection of a sort, who knows, like. But if we're getting back to a previous time, maybe this is part and parcel of that return. Yeah, the return of the kings, maybe. So yeah.
All right. Well, you saw, you was going about the roulette table, the Orlando Ferguson map.
Yeah.
So what's the roulette table? Like, I mean, yeah, it kind of resembles one in a way, but what's a roulette table got to do with anything?
Well, 666. Now, if you think of a roulette table, Jamie, right? And how will I put this? Put a big pole through the center of it and hold it up over your head like an umbrella. That's what I think the dome, not the dome, sort of like the dome shape.
Well, 18 red and 18 black. 3 6s.
Well, that's all about the sun. So everything is about the sun, or the broken sun. And Orlando Ferguson obviously was known as the roulette map. Yeah, so that connects with that. But yeah, I think that's mostly for the 666. Black and red are danger, aren't they? Masonic colors. I don't know much about Masonic esoteric. I think not much. I've read a bit, but I haven't read any of the major works, so I'm not well versed in that. And I'm sort of glad I'm not as well. I just rather a broader overview. I think that's all you really need in a sense, because what I'm thinking anyway is the truth is pretty simple, Jamie. And there's a lot of different ways of telling it, and the truth is being told in a grander sense. So and it all pertains to the nature of the place we live, and maybe the real history. What really happened. Maybe
I've got out a game. It's called Russian Bids Roulette. So what you do is you throw out blind accusations and hope that no one gets too offended, and you can gain some subs out of it.
Yeah. Very good. Every color you win on every color, James. But I've never had Russian bids. Never had too much of a problem with him, except he's wishy-washy stance on a few things. 9/11 being the big one, but mostly fakery he was going. But some people must have died. Well, this is just clinging to what.
So why do you think nobody died then?
Don't. It's like. These are planned events. These are things that has taken many years and many thousands of people in cooperation to achieve. You don't.
Do you think it's easier to hoax an event like that with no deaths than to have people actually die?
Yeah, absolutely, Jamie. Absolutely, and that's a prerequisite. You can imagine the team leaders going, "Oh, today, right, lads? We know we have to do. We've practiced this 1,000 times and." Or 100 times, so no injuries now. But then it's like a movie set, Jamie. Every caution is taken to ensure the safety of all those involved. Now, you do have accidents occasionally.
I thought they didn't care about anyone.
But you see, this is their own people that they're cooperating. They don't, again, when you're dealing
I thought they didn't even care about their own. They just wanted to keep their own power and just kind of...
Yeah, but I know, have you heard me saying that? I mean... I haven't said that. And there's one thing, again, wars, what's really going on? What do we really know is really going on? That's a difficult question. Dave Johnson talks about no death in any wars. First World War, Second World War, American Civil War, Irish Civil War. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure. That's taking it to the extreme, but for the most part, I would go along with it. So we really don't know what is what. Certainly in terms of these media hoaxes, Jamie, Manchester being the latest one here, but you can go back. Paris, Boston, Sandy Hook, Oslo, Utoya, 7/7, Madrid train bombing. You can keep going back, 9/11, Oklahoma, Waco, Texas. Do you know what I mean? Keep going back. I could keep going back a bit further. The moon landings. Well, that's not what they call it, but it's fabrication on a different front. JFK was the big one. More fabrication. You can keep going back. The Second World War. Nagasaki. Keep going back again. You get the Titanic eventually. Keep going back into the American Civil War. And this is what I'm talking pyramids in and around that 1850s time. That seems to be a big transition point. And all you need is about 3 generations, Jamie, to push complete fabrication off its truth. It has to go through that the way the people who were directly associated with time died out, and the fabrication then can be sold, along the way. And then when 3 generations go by, the completely fabricated history is part and parcel of truth. So this is how easy to do it. And so that's where the 400 plus years comes in to my reckoning as well. It's all supporting evidence. There's no way of proving anything categorically, but it's all supporting evidence, and a picture is certainly emerging on many fronts at this stage, and a lot of things need to be connected. And again, if we're just moving along, trying to connect some of the dots. I mean, I never said that, they don't care about anybody. They would kill their own willy-nilly. That was not my position, although, of course, I've heard it. I would never jump into that with 2 feet. But in terms of these media hoaxes, it takes the cooperation of many people. The bigger the event, the more cooperation, no deaths. And again, I think they're all privy, Jamie, to the end game. So they go along with these things for different reasons. And we're just flailing in the dark trying to guess what their ultimate motivations are. I definitely don't think it's in our natures to participate in mass deaths. We can't be part in. Imagine you've got 1,000 people. So let's go with the conspiracy in the first place. 9/11. There have to be at least 1,000 people involved. In the conspiracy, whether it was the Judy Wood dramatic version of events, or it was completely hoax. Those 1,000 people, if you told them that we're going to kill 3,000 of our own bankers now, well-to-do people strewn throughout the buildings, how many of them would back out over the years? Their conscience would get at pretty much all of them, I would say. But if you told them this is going to be a mass hoax for a different reason, which they're probably all in on anyway, they're from high positions and they share sort of secret knowledge, secret information. So that makes much more sense. Then when you combine that with all the evidence presented for the 9/11 hoax, it becomes pretty clear to me anyway that this is what we're dealing with. It makes sense as well. We don't need to introduce any more difficulties than necessary. And again, at some point, Jamie, you have to make a call. This is the point. You have to make right. I'm going to go with that as the truth and move forward from there. Because if you just get stuck on this part, this is just one part of the greater endeavor, I think.
All right. So Steve Anthony's after coming on or something. I don't know who he is really.
Steve Antonio. He was
Steve Anthony.
Steve Anthony. Yeah, he was. If it's the same Steve, I think it is. He was a ball earther at one stage, and he argued and ridiculed flat earthers. He argued against and ridiculed flat earthers to a fair degree. But then he did the switch over. So apparently he's a flat earther at this stage. It could all be an act, Steve, of course. So you could be a genuine plant, as I've told you before. The suspicion would be there. But other than that, I think he's spoken on Pancho Pete's a few times and a few other places. Jamie?
Well, I'll probably just, send him a link then.
Up to you, man.
Because if I'm not wrong, I think it was him that was going on about the Manchester thing. I'm not so sure, but
yes, I think Steve is on board. What are you going to do, Jamie? The minute you look into these things, you're seeing a hoax. So what are you going to do? This is not difficult for me, but I can see the difficulty. We have to call it out. Even I know it's going to be fucking difficult. But how can you pretend to people that you think it's real when you know that it's not real and they're being spoofed?
Yeah. You know that Brenda, and she was like, or he rather, was pretty really desperate to come on last night, and I was like, nah,
Yeah.
I can't be doing with people that they'll ask for like 20 times to come on like in like 5 minutes or something. It's like,
Brandon.
yeah, I know you want to come on, but I've seen you before, and you're just gonna waste time. So
Yeah, well, good call. I would say Brenda is another actor, and
someone would say trans Brenda,
yeah, you know Brenda. Yeah, Brenda. But it's an act.
but I don't know. I mean, it just sounds like the voice sounds kind of fake. Like
It's characters everywhere, Jamie. You heard me asking a few tough questions, not tough questions, for me they're easy questions, but there seemed to be general apathy or all around. And to me, if there's that sort of apathy, I can't see why you found yourself in flat Earth, because that's anything but an apathy-friendly topic. But all the rest of the topics that I mentioned were important as well. I mean, if this is not important to people, I'm definitely in the wrong area, because this is when I'm living in the real world where everyone around me is acting that like all of these things are real and all of this horror and terror is real, when I know for a fact that it isn't. And I also know that if they looked just beyond the mainstream media where they're getting their stories from, that they would see this again. When I know that, I have to say something, don't I? I can't just say nothing or just go, yeah, isn't it terrible? That's, that's a dilemma. But that's a stupid dilemma when you think about it. First thing we teach our children is not to lie, isn't it? Now, if we have people representing us, apparently no one represents me, but if we have people representing us who are subservient to us and they're going along with this lie, what sort of world is that in Washington? You know what I mean? This is nonsense on every level. So to be apathetic about it for me is crazy. It's not good. That's what got us into this trouble in the first place. And everything connects, and that's not to say that I'm going to go to a fucking Zen meditation center and get out the whip and get everyone to get up and be concerned about it. That's not the point. But I mean, this is the way I look upon your type of hangout here, Jamie, and the title of it itself tells you, that it's a wide and a varied and an opinionated board, and that sort of thing is welcome, because that's the areas we want to sort of discuss and delve into, So yeah, that's where I'm coming from with that.
Well, so I mean, the bullets, to some people it may sound like they got some good points about the story trails and things like that, and and how they go counterclockwise and clockwise depending on the hemispheres, and and they claim there's a South Pole and all that. And I mean, what do you think about all these points that they come up with?
They have the same old points, don't they? Again, for me, Jamie, it's a hall of mirrors up there, and if you have a revolving light shining on a contoured mirror, you're going to see different things when you as the observer is positioned in a different location in relation to the contoured, reflective, watery, mirrored surface above. And that makes perfect sense to me. Just like shining a light across a spoon, in a different sense, but similar sense. It will behave differently, or look into a spoon.
Well, they go on about it changing 1 degree every 69 miles or something, which is completely in line with the globe model. I suppose, assuming it's 25,000 miles in circumference, though.
Well, all it did. Yeah, no, this is exactly, Jamie. There you go, exactly. And the Earth is not like the Gleason's map. The Earth is not a perfect circle, And again, who knows what is the overall Earth? We talked about a honeycomb Earth before, and these are real considerations. Do we just imagine the Earth like?
Well, it's kind of speculation because we've never been to any of these other holes or whatever you want to call them.
And that's what I said. At some point, we have to sort of say, listen, we'll have to just put a stop up there and not go beyond that, because I mean, you can get into territory like dealing with Terry Pratchett's view of flat Earth.
What you mean, like the disc world sort of thing? I mean,
there must be something. So if we are something, and if we are contained, must be something exterior to the containment. So then that's where you can. First of all, you can just.
So do you think there's something that goes on for infinity then?
Well, there you go, Jamie. I mean. what are you going to say there? Again, it's another area we can talk about, and we'll get no further at the end of the conversation because anything becomes possible, and there's no evidence that you can present which will strengthen or even weaken your case because anything becomes possible. There's no way to venture into that realm to present any evidence, verifiable evidence. So, but there are with Earth in a local sense, there are plenty of evidence, and it won't be proof. I don't think it will be proof in a traditional manner, and that's good for me. You know, we have to, as investigators, if you will, intuit a lot of stuff, and I think all of this knowledge is here for us anyway. And again, when we look at any of the media, we look at any of the television programs, newspapers, we take in everything. So within everything that we've taken in, if you want to say subconsciously, the truth is there, has been bombarded at us again and again, and it's just waiting to be amalgamated.
Flat Stillwater is asking, saying, Jamie asked Pete, how does the moon get smaller as you get closer to it? What does he use as an example from the real world to make him think it?
Well, first of all, as I've said before, it's a suspicion of mine. Why I suspect that is because I think the moon, just like the stars, are made of the same stuff. I'll put it like that. And as the stars tend to disappear, I think the moon will tend to become smaller and smaller because of the nature of what I think it's observer dependent, and you're dealing with light show. In the real world, I haven't seen any high altitude balloon footage where at 120,000 feet the moon is of any substantial size at all. And I've asked Bob of Globebusters the same thing, who's been involved in direct launches himself and obviously has viewed many more footages than I have, and he agreed with me. He said he's never seen.
I thought they hadn't been involved in any launches themselves.
Well, they have been, but
they're not any successful ones. I mean,
yeah, not really, but you know what I mean. They still have hands-on experience. They have attempted. Apparently, Jaron has attempted to launch 5 balloons or something like that. I'm not sure what's going on there, and I'm not sure.
It's like they're just trying to milk it or something. You know, like try and get people's money and not. You know, we don't know what's going on, really, do we?
I'm not sure what's going on. I feel in my own head I've come far away from this. Like, you know, I've answered some other questions that I guess I'll just have to put something together the way you'll see that there is more evidence for a different connection than what I'm sort of presenting at the minute, you know. But he has said as well he has never seen any footage which shows a substantial sized moon. So it's a speculation, and you'll notice, as I said earlier, Mick, that's a fantastic experiment to be done by anybody who's considering this or has the means or the interest to do this, you know, because I think that's exactly what will happen. Again, it's a hole of mirrors up there for me, and the most important thing is the dome is the barrier is a contoured barrier. It's not a flat barrier. So
how can you prove that then?
Well, again, proof is difficult, but it's in different indications. And when you have lights moving over, first of all, when you have lights moving over a contoured surface, Jamie, you will get a different result or an outcome or different visualization than if it was moving over a flat or a planar surface, mirrored surface. And that's what pretty much describes the star trail, southern star trails for me, you know. It's just based on lights traveling over a contoured surface. Everything travels in unison. You're dealing with lights in terms of different relative positions within this contoured surface, and that has a sort of a general shape itself. And I think in general the shape is sort of as we imagine the electromagnetic lines of force. You know, this is the type of thing. I remember I mentioned Adam Dwyer A4 talking about the spider god. Well, if you think about a spider with a null zone in the center, the body in the center, and then you have the limbs kind of arching out and all around, that's the sort of thing.
Spider god.
That's the sort of thing you're talking about. If you can get a picture of that, Jamie.
Sounds like some psychedelic experience to me, that.
Well, this is again, it's if you know anything about A4, his very first I'm sure you do, Jamie, but his very first avatar was him showing a Masonic ring that he got in the post. So this has sort of been provocative in the first place. There's many characters strewn throughout. You wouldn't believe it, Jamie, the amount of characters, or actors as I call them. I never make any judgment against the man. I don't know the man. But if there's an actor playing a role, I will definitely call him out, because I'm not about deception. I'm not about lies. And I do resent when anybody does. It's like Mick said last night, I couldn't play guitar well. There's plenty of instances of me playing guitar on different hangouts. So, I mean, automatically there, you're careless by saying something like that, because it's easily disproven. So the reason I'm calling out these people...
Well, I think what he was saying is that you proved his point then, because then you know...
No, Jamie, he said, because now, do you see now, he said, because I was mistaken and I made a wrong decision regarding you, the same could happen to you. That's not straight logic. That doesn't work in me. That's flipping things around and turning it on someone else, So because I can lie, or because I can get something wrong, that means you can get something wrong. If just after getting something wrong, that doesn't wash with me. And that's not to say that all of us can't get something wrong, of course. But
we've all just got to accept it and not be egotistical and just,
Well, it's not egotistical when someone makes when in any discussion, Jamie, if you say something, I will respond to that, whether it's in the form of a question, an accusation, a point, an interesting comment, and you're looking for a response. That's just the way things work. And I don't see any sort of set way to behave, you know what I mean? From this point on, I will just walk into the way I walked into this point, which is just to be myself. And sure I'll piss people off. Sure I'll be controversial on certain things. But hey, I mean, that's just part of my character, that's who I am.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got a guest. How you doing, Steve?
Yeah. How you doing?
Right.
Yeah, it is Steve. Yeah, how you doing, Steve?
Hey, Pete. I just wanted to come along and with my with what I've found out about the Manchester event.
Yeah, nice man.
All right, so first off, we have 22 people that died. Yeah, it was on the 22nd of May, and there was the the bomber. He was 22 years old. His brother was 23 years old, and the Westminster thing, which was apparently it was 1 month ago. I can't believe it. I thought it was like 2 months ago. But anyway, that was on the 22nd of March.
Yeah.
And there's a link I've dropped in the side in the group chat on the Google Hangout. First one is a screen cap of a Twitter account. Her name's Hannah. Apparently, she was in the arena when this was going on. The first video that came out, people just running around the arena and screaming. And I was looking at the video and I was like, okay, it's in the video. I scroll up, and then I see this. And if you look, it's if I can share my thing. What is this? Okay, is that the one? I think that's the one. That's the one.
What do you want me to present?
Yeah, if you can.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I've tried to. I don't know why it's not doing full screen thing. Anyway, okay, here we go. See, so this says she actually removed this about a day after, about on the 23rd.
Go through it there, Steve. What's
yes.
the...
So okay, look, I just got an Illuminate tattoo, and I really kind of love it. And it says Illuminate on it. Illuminati. Okay, anyway,
but who is this person?
This is Hannah,
and
she's the person that uploaded one of the first videos, I believe, of the attack of just people running around screaming. It wasn't really anything there.
And this was this photograph here. This was
a pinned tweet from May the 13th that was on her Twitter account.
Right. So
and a day after, it's disappeared. Yeah, it's gone. But I screen capped it before it disappeared.
Okay.
Which I found was a bit strange. But the 22, yeah.
And of course, yeah. So I mean, are you looking upon this is another? This is sort of another plant within the narrative for me. Like, they put all of these little threads that you can follow into it, and then they'll, like as you said, she removed that post, but you got a screen grab of it, so you can come along and say, well, look at what's going on here. She's connected in some way, which of course she is, if she even exists.
So yeah, I don't know what to make of it. They seem to be pushing it very hard in the news and trying to reaffirm it as a thing that happened. And
whereas every level you look into it with hoax in mind, it jumps out at you. It's just a setup on every level. So I mean, that's your conclusion. But again, how are we going to battle or deal with the people who believe in this as a reality?
There's another thing as well that I'd like to mention is there's a video. Yeah, there's a video of it was in Victoria Station, one of the entrances into the place, into this arena, and you had just the girls running, screaming, and I suppose parents just standing there in this train station. You had the ticket machine on the left and the Greg's on the right. So I had to Google map it and check it out, and it turns out, that was the station. But a bomb had gone off right in the arena. The station is like right next to the arena, and there was another video that came out not long after, a dash cam video. It was a car that was parked about half a mile away. You saw the flash, then you heard the bang, and if we just go back to this video that I think everyone's seen, if they haven't seen it, it's going to be there in the compilation videos of all the videos that came out around that time. You'll see it. The parent, they're just standing there. They're just standing there. A huge bomb just went off, man. They're just standing there. Like, I can understand if you're half a mile away, it's not going to be that loud, but it was still audible and you could still hear it. But you're right next to the bloody thing, and they're just standing there. Like, what's going on?
How obvious are they making it, Steve? I mean, this is why I'm almost calling it auto hoax at this stage and just not getting involved in any of the narrative. But again, it's like NASA hoaxery. They're just making it too obvious, and that's for specific reasons. Whether it's to divide us, it's to divide us.
Not well. This is the thing. Theresa May on the Monday, I believe it was on the Monday. Well, on that day, earlier in the day, she was calling for regulation of the internet. She wants the government to regulate the internet and to control, to control dissemination of information and stuff like this. So
what they call false news.
So, false news is going to be like cyberbullying and all that shit, which they can do anyway, and they do pretty well.
So they can
especially when it comes to
stuff,
Facebook and stuff.
So they can lump all this stuff in with that.
Yeah.
They'll try and discredit us and then try and.
Well, there's another thing as well, is that this could just be a way for the kind of the security agencies to kind of justify their existence, is by either letting things happen or orchestrating it themselves, and then saying, "See, look, this is what happens if you don't give away your like privacy and let us look at your emails and see everything you're doing. This is what happens. You need to let us see what you're doing, because otherwise we're just going to let another one happen or make it happen."
So it gives them.
It justifies their existence. It justifies their existence. It secures their jobs. Because if there wasn't any terrorism going on and there wasn't any people going around, terrorism, real or fake, or whatever going on, then there wouldn't be really any point in these security agencies existing in the first place. So they have to justify it.
This has always been the way it's been, Steve. And I mean, for people to be apathetic about this is crazy for me. Again, Jamie, this is a dangerous channel, you see, because you're not monetized, or you're not restricted in terms of
financial burden or anything.
And talk about, Steve, it's all about information. You can't let a truth sort of be grasped and ran with, because it can soon take over. That's where all the infiltration agents and actors come into it. So, but I'm sure all of it connects. Again, I identified Theresa May as the May Queen, drag queen Theresa Terry, which is what she is. But we're allowing these people to, who are supposed to serve us, to take away our fundamental freedoms and rights. So crazy to be
and it's also a play on the heartstrings of people and trying to manipulate people that way. So it's like, look, 22 kids died, and then it's like, well, look, you can either say it's fake and stuff, but then they're kind of manipulating you into thinking that it's real, because you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy that comes along and says these people didn't die, when everyone else believes that they did.
I've been that guy loads of times. That's me. How you doing?
I've got another thing. May the force be with you.
Well, this is not funny. Well, I mean, force is in energy, but there was I've been looking into gematria and the numbers that occur, and I think there's something to do with the intention of these people and what they're doing, and whether they're but because like with something like a bomb, for example, I mean, maybe with a gun it's more direct and you can control where it's going, but it's just a bomb. You can't pick and choose how many people get killed from a bomb. Well, you're going to count everyone that comes outside that door and then just detonate it and then just go, yeah, that's 22. Like, you can't just pick and choose. Like, I believe that there is some sort of an energy that manifests.
What do you mean? Hang on. What do you mean? That's just the number. They choose these numbers.
They choose the numbers, and then these numbers will resonate outwards into things that are otherwise outside of their control.
No, I don't think that's what's going on. What I believe is all these numbers are sort of a different language. So anyone who's reading, the millions of people worldwide outside who are insiders or involved, who are reading this story can look at the numbers and know exactly, relate them. It's usually related to the sun and different pagan sort of festivals, or celebration. But I can relate them to a bigger picture. I don't think that it's any particular power in the number 22. It's just what it represents, and I get a different language. But
I just find it strange that 322. There'll be three. It would occur 3 times, but also the 22nd of March, and it's either these ISIS people are using gematria in a way, because I think it works either for good or bad. And so when you choose numbers with an intention, you have to have an intention. You can't just go and choose these numbers. You have to have your intent, and it has to be there when you choose them. And so what happens is when you choose that number, it's kind of put into destiny, and it resonates outwards into things that are totally out of your control. Out of your control, it just happens that way, and so it repeats. And so
there are different forces and powers at play on a flat Earth. Steve,
but not only that, you're taking people's lives. So I think that also that's itself. That's energy and force, and so that can work.
Well, you don't see
whatever it is as well.
If you can get thousands, millions of people to believe that 22 children died, that's pretty much the same. You're getting the same. And imagine you can harness that energy somehow. You're getting the same effect with the belief. So you don't.
How do you think they could have affect it then? Because surely there's families and stuff that who've lost people and stuff. And
well, there's families that actually lost people. I mean, as in just lost people, as in kids who just lost and they didn't know where they were for a few days. How the fuck could that happen? Either these parents were really inept or something else is going on.
Yeah.
I don't know where my fucking kid is. I don't know where my kid is. Come on, is it
it's the fault of information war. This is what they do with the hoax. They throw out loads of these anomalies, inconsistencies with the narrative, get investigators sort of down these conspiracy alleyways. But again, they're making it clearer and clearer now that you're dealing with hoaxes. But of course, it's only to a certain few, apparently. The vast majority either don't care or will just swallow hook, line, and sinker anything that's presented to them. Jamie, in terms of victims and families, man, this stuff is bread and butter stuff to, these agencies who carry out this sort of stuff, to fake victims, to fake complete lives. You have lifetime actors like Alex Jones, Bill Hicks, that sort of. There are people whose whole lives are fabricated, to play a role, an acting role. So in order to faking victims, that's easy, man. That's easy done. We saw that with Sandy Hook, and there's a myriad of different ways you can do it, from completely whole cloth fabricated CGI victims, which is very easy. Remember, the levels of technology are pretty advanced, to actually having a real life person implanted within a community, and you just always having the intention of leaving, just to give that sense of reality to the situation. So this is all bread and butter stuff.
Well, Jonathan Daughter is after a link, so if you can sort of give me an address, then I can hang on. All right, I'll just.
Can you stop screen sharing me, by the way? I've done my bit. I guess I can.
Right, what do I do? I'll just hang on. I'll just.
Just oh wait, can I unscreen?
Hang on. I think is that.
That's it.
One. Okay. No, I am not presenting to everyone.
What's going on with your avatar?
It's just some art. Just been doing some art, and
is that your own piece, is it? Oh, very good.
I did it, and I took a picture of it with a camera, and then put it into Photoshop, and then changed the levels on it so it looks better. Brought out more of the color, and
very good. Sure, there's a message or two in somewhere, Steve. Always is. Very good.
I don't know, man. It's just abstract things just chucked in,
Yeah.
Just kind of like an abstract thing. I like abstract because you can just get so many things in that aren't. Well, I mean, I don't know if that. Well, maybe you could drink wine in space with some cards. I don't know. It'd be kind of difficult. Everything's flying around. I don't know how you'd be able to do it.
Very good. Little pins in space.
Man, imagine being drunk in space. That'd be awesome.
There is no space, I suppose. Well, there has to be something. I mean, I think it's waters beyond. So, I mean, can we just, if it's infinite waters, that's pretty much the same as infinite space. And are there many other maybe pods like ours? Are we moving, if we are in this bigger pod, through these infinite waters?
Infinite waters, diving deep.
But how do you know it's infinite, man?
I know, man.
How do they know space is infinite?
How do you know, man?
It's
so Probably because it's so fucking huge, and so they're just like, yeah, it's infinite. It's like a
That's
bucket of
what
water
she
that's so
said.
huge.
Yeah,
You can't
that's what she
comprehend how
said.
huge it is.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's infinite. Well, I mean, like, it's not like you're gonna actually travel around that bucket of water because it's so freaking huge. Like, you're only gonna be in one corner of it.
Yeah, that's true. Then that's what she said. It's that huge. It's infinite.
Well, as far as you're concerned, I mean, with our current lifetime, it probably wouldn't even be possible to explore it, all of it, because it's so bloody huge.
You can't even talk about infinite, really, because any fraction of infinite will give you infinite. So that's nonsense.
Yeah, because it's like if you can cut it in half, like then.
If I had an infinite cake and I cut it in half, I still have two halves of an infinite cake.
Yeah, that's true. It's like if so I think the only way you can have infinite in it is like sort of within itself, sort of thing.
Yeah. When you think of infinite, all you have to think of is just you're not going to be able to do anything. I mean, it's just so vast and huge that it's just not worth. I mean, kind of thinking about it, but it's like it's infinite. Like, come on, like you're not going to be able to explore all of it. It's infinite. It goes on forever.
This I was talking about with Jamie. You always sort of when you expand your thinking, let's say even beyond flat Earth and what's beyond that, you'll always reach a singularity, a point where you won't be able to go beyond, whether it be in terms of a beginning or whether it be in terms of some sort of confinement,
like a firmament.
Well, I mean, if you're going to say that the Earth is finite and or the realm is finite, then you're going to have to describe what's
maybe
boundaries, what's outside those boundaries.
The boundary would be the knowledge that you have, and gaining more knowledge would then allow you to be able to explore more because you'll be able to go further with the knowledge that you've. Do
you remember in the end of?
So do you think it's that consciousness is creating this reality then?
I think consciousness is the knowledge that we attain, and so as we gain more knowledge, we can get further. That could work in, I guess, science and knowledge and being able to treat things and whatever and stuff like that.
You remember the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey when it was just a baby, in the fluid looking down on the Earth. Maybe that's what it is like when we're in that state within the womb, just pure consciousness in the waters, waters beyond there. Who knows?
Well, but consciousness, that's all consciousness is what we have gained through our senses and learning, right?
Well, I mean, it has been controlled as well. Everything about ourselves and our lives is controlled. So who knows what true consciousness really is? If it was allowed to develop naturally, if everything was. And again, I think we're in a broken system here, Steve. I was saying this yesterday. The sun is broken, so who knows what the true natures or the true extents of our consciousness really are. I think we're definitely confined majorly to a big degree. So maybe that's what we're getting back to as well. And of course, if you're who said that? Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone was making a presentation on 9/11, all these dates are chosen, 9/11, 2001, so the day of 9/11. Oliver Stone, who had made the movie JFK, and he was just in a college campus making a speech. But basically, why I'm saying that, the point he made was, if you pay attention, your consciousness increases, you sort of level up. So this is what it's all about. I think there's plenty of clues left out there for us to sort of put a greater picture together. And a sort of an awakening, remembering.
How do I unpresent, by the way? I don't know what's going on. It's just stuck. I always get this problem. Whenever I present, it's just stuck.
Just click someone else.
So if I'm presenting, done.
Yeah.
Right, well, we got a new guest. How are you doing, Jonathan? Hey. You're going to have to
unmute. Because your microphone doesn't seem like it's working. Well, we're not hearing anything.
Maybe just reload. I probably should have anyway. Jamie, just in case others might want to come in and maybe are reluctant because I'm here. But it's been cool.
Go on. They might think that you're just like being an antagonist or something.
Well, everything I say is pretty much antagonistic. So,
because it seems a bit controversial to even some of the flat earthers.
Well, dude, the flat earth is flipping controversial. So come on.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Pete, your stuff's even controversial to the flat earthers.
Always has been, Jamie. But again, I'm on a search for truth as well. And when I'm speaking, especially when I'm speaking to people I like, I'm just having a conversation.
Well, Jonathan's saying no stay, Pete. What's he on about?
Oh, he mean, well,
Hang on a bit.
I guess
okay.
he means Pete shouldn't stay and should go. That's probably what it is. It's broken English.
Well, he's saying please stay, Pete.
Oh, please stay. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Pete can stay. I mean,
Oh, thanks, Steve.
I don't have any
You
problem.
don't have to go. Or it's not like you're.
Pete the antagonist.
No, I wasn't feeling any pressure to go, and it was nothing to do with you, Jonathan.
I've got a joke. So you're called Pete, right? So if you go to the bog as in the Irish bog, then that would mean that you're
Pete in the bog.
Pete's in the bog, yeah.
And you also
Pete
get
on the
Pete,
bog. Oh,
you also get Pete from a bog, so you have Pete, Moss Pete. But Del Quad Joe has his website or his hangout is called A View from the Bog, but he literally lives on overviewing a bog, a soggy piece of
Yeah, because
land.
when I say Pete, I mean as in
Yeah.
Pete is that's the highly flammable stuff, right?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, like the methane and stuff like that goes to the top. And
Well, it's a staple in Irish fires here, Irish farmhouse fires. So
they claim it takes millions of years to fossilize, which is probably a load of bullshit.
Nonsense, Jamie. Again, I think this is all the detritus from the devastation that happened, whenever, a few hundred years ago, 400 years ago. So
if
all
it's peat being created all the time, then when you take the peat away, there's other peat coming along.
Yeah, same with oil.
It's like a peat factory.
So it's just like constantly being created then.
I imagine, yeah.
So it's just
like when you think
millions of years thing. It's just
on the way
to push, the artificial scarcity narrative.
Yeah, absolutely, Jamie. Just another, and again, a massive area in itself of deception, but just a tiny, tiny little piece of the greater puzzle. Again, everything is just fabricated. Everything we think we know about anything is just.
Jonathan, we heard a click noise. Nothing really happened.
Okay.
And now we hear you.
Okay.
There you
Great.
go.
And we hear you saying okay. So I guess everything's okay now.
Nice.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good. How's it going?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
It isn't going anywhere because it's flat and stationary.
Yeah, you sound okay now.
Am I loud enough?
that was a Vinny joke.
I got it.
Was it? Oh.
Vincent has turned up on Pancho Pete's door. I see. That's cool.
Yeah, that was something.
Well, you
nice.
said that. Well, you said something about that you have problems with him or something. Well, I don't want to talk about them now, but
No, I'm.
but you still, kind of, because it's wonder you haven't called out Poncho yet.
Well, not to get too involved with that, but yeah, calling out Antonio, calling out a few people it didn't go down too well. And I think the same people I called out, Jamie, were responsible for those 600 or 400 and odd thumbs down that night, So it is a different.
That was pretty strange. That were 400 and odd thumbs down. I mean,
There's
I thought it was just one of the the globe troll people, but even they wouldn't even be responsible for hundreds of thumbs down.
No, that's crazy stuff. But as regards calling out Pancho Pete, Pancho passed all the things on my litmus test. I have a litmus test. Where you stand on flat Earth, right? If you, after investigation, you're not a flat earther, then you're not genuine, because again, it's just so obvious, and that's the truth of it. The second one was 9/11 media hoaxery, and
I thought he didn't have much of a stance on that or something. I don't know, because he didn't really talk about the 9/11 media fakery so much, does he?
No, yeah, but he has done. He has said, and he's on board with the idea. But again, this is all.
What does he try not to talk about it just because he knows it's quite a controversial topic, maybe?
Yeah, but he has said he can from a magician's point of view. I said 9/11 was a magician's trick, so he can understand how they could have pulled it off like that.
Yeah,
but he doesn't dwell on it. You're right, Jamie. So he might be a bit weak on that one, but he does talk, of course, about the legal name. But, but there's different things going on as well. So yeah, he does very well on my litmus test, and I've always always been friendly to Pete, even though I've found his behavior strange at certain times, and obviously
what you mean, a bit like over the top at times, you mean?
Well, more than that, yeah, and there's kind of strangeness to his story as well. But I never judged the man anyway, Jamie. So if he is an actor,
he also talks about Stonehenge and the pyramids being a hoax.
Right, exactly. So I haven't heard him not willing to discuss pretty much any topic, but he kind of did a turn on me, and I guess that's fine. Apparently, I was supposed to have said something bad about flat earthers in a chat when I was chatting to Yvette and Charlotte. So I suppose, and I said,
what was it? What you on about? Charlotte, 1966.
Yeah. I was just talking to these people, not ever having.
Well, again, I don't even know if this is a woman. I mean, it's just
right, exactly, Jamie. So I'm just like, if I went into a chat right now and I hadn't spoken to somebody, but I'd heard their name before, then I would just, have a chat with them. So that was it. Apparently, then I was supposed to have bad-mouthed flat earthers, which is nonsense. Waiting for the proof of that. But Pete just said, "Well, if this is true, Pete, that you must be a plant, then, and then you're immediately banned."
You don't look green though, Pete.
Yeah, but fuck's sake, I mean, I wouldn't even give me a link then to come in and say, well, defend myself. So
you don't look green or anything. Like, how can you be a plant?
Well, all right, okay. Well, I'm coming to think we share so many body parts which associate with tree parts that I'm coming to think that I might be a tree.
Well, do you smoke that much cannabis? Is that what it is?
Well, cannabis is another different story.
I know, man. You can take so much colloidal silver, you go blue. I don't know about smoking so much cannabis, you go green.
I was. Oh no, well, you can never have THC.
You can't have too much.
If cannabis makes you go green and it makes you get taller, then that would make you a green giant.
Oh, Jamie.
Oh man, if you drink too much Ribena, you go purple.
Jolly green giant. So regarding Pancho, I don't know what's going on. Antonio, when I had that fight with Antonio, Jamie, and for me, he exposed himself completely, but that's just for me. He had some sort of hold.
Why did they take all his clothes off or something?
Well,
I wish.
Well, he was much more blatant than that, He was much more blatant than that, actually. He had some sort of a hold over Pete. And, of course, Pete talked about being sectioned in the hospital for 10 days. Now, I don't know what's going on. I don't make any judgment on anything. Is it true even? I don't know. I mean, beyond a certain point, you can't know. So I love Pete.
Who knows what it means?
If it's true, then he will be another actor. And again,
Pete, there was something that kind of chimed with me with Pete when there was an instance where he was talking about his bouts with the mental hospital, and he was outside with another guy looking up at the sky and saw the question mark. And not long ago, like literally a week ago, I look up at the sky, I'm like, fuck off. I see a question mark right above my head in the stars. Oh, that's crazy, man.
Wow.
This made me laugh.
Yeah, Pete, your dodo is fucking crazy.
Oh, the dodo is out of the bag, Jamie. I've said it a few times. And I just saw a video today, Jamie, you'd be interested in, and I haven't looked at it myself. I just saw it advertised, a trans investigation into Brian Cox. So I'm pretty sure
I thought he was wearing a wig.
No, I'm pretty sure that's a trans. It's a female to male, without having seen the video yet. But this is what we're dealing with, man. This is the stuff of
I don't think everybody.
Brian Cox.
I know, yeah. I know.
Oh yeah, crayon box. Yeah.
Brain Cox. Men are said to have sex on the
They had to add the Cox on the end.
Yeah. But again, they're just completely contrived.
I don't think everybody's a tranny.
Cock and balls.
Well,
they talk about balls flying around in space, and then they have Cox at the end of the name, and the second name.
Patricia Steer as well. I saw a video briefly today, the tomfoolery of the International Space Station. Put it up, not that I follow him or anyone really, but Patricia is definitely looking more and more male now. I mean, it's what are you going to do? You can either deal with it or you can deny it. I don't know. I don't give a shit either way.
What?
Definitely looking more and more male. The head size is wrong.
Does Antonio deny it?
No, he's pushed the idea that she is a male. But again,
But
people
then
are
what was when you came out and said it? He kind of got angry, like.
I know, man.
So that makes me a homosexual.
That's not good for Flat Earth. I'm telling you right now, it's not good.
No, this is all drama. And you have Mystery, Mark, Sergeant Peppers, Antonio's, I call him Sued by Rats or Sub Eye of Rats. This is all a fucking game.
Booby traps.
And actually, I was looking at this video today, and they're at the first meetup. I don't know where did they have it again? In Oxford or Cambridge? One of the
Was it Leicester?
No, the first one was in Oxford. I think it was only in Oxford. When Patricia met up for the first time with, and there you have a picture of Martin Leedkey. I said it to Martin in chat. Martin Leedkey, Robert, what's his name? Doomweaver, whatever his name is. Robert Shortman, Antonio Subarat's looking fucking dodgy as anything, and then Patricia Steer, who has her, this hand on the hip. This is what transgenders put their hand on the hip to sort of give that femininity impression, and she's often done that. I remember seeing Patricia
over feminine, yeah.
I remember seeing Patricia's, and Teresa May does this as well, but I remember seeing Patricia Steer at the first meetup. They produced just some of the videos that was shot there, and her top was really low, you know what I mean? It was pretty low, and the breasts were really prominent. That's someone trying to oversell.
I mean, like, why does she need to do that? This is what they do. They just overdo it because
I don't think all these people are trannies like you're saying. You're saying a lot of people are.
Well, not a lot, but just two people. Just two people. Come on. It's just two people. How many people are on the earth? Come on.
Just two to begin with, man. There's so many more that are.
It might be a little.
Do you not like the idea of it, Jonathan, or have you looked into it and decided?
I'm sure there are some, of course, the Joan Rivers, that kind of thing. But I mean, I don't think Patricia Steer looks tranny.
Well, I mean, this is. Have you slept with Patricia Steer? Have you been intimate with the Steer? Antonio has. Antonio has.
What the hell?
So I don't know. Okay. I'm just going to say she because then that's she and he mixed together. So anyway, I think she just overdoes it as a way of because she has. Yeah. I don't want to say it because that's just really offensive. But
Patrick, just call her.
If Patricia's a man, then Antonio is a woman.
Okay, so like she overdoes it.
He's an Antoinette.
Feminine.
Antonio's an
to make her feel more feminine.
Antoinette,
She feels that she's still a man, but she isn't a man, and it's that kind of weird thing that's going on. I mean, I don't know why she does that because I'd still hit it.
It brings a new meaning to Flat Earth and other hot potatoes.
Yeah, it's a hot potato. That's definitely that's what it is. It's a hot potato.
Like Michelle Obama looked convincing as a tranny
for a while.
I said that wrong.
Yeah, how do you look convincing as a tranny?
I said that wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you accept that Michelle Obama was a transgender,
well, she had the biological markers. She had the ring finger higher than the index,
in the face as well.
Proportional short shoulders and hips, and different things. She has them. Whereas the other accusations you're making aren't carrying the biological.
Patricia Steer wears a lot of makeup, though.
That's what I mean. You're kind of saying too much.
Hang on, Jonathan.
Patricia Steer uses a lot of makeup.
Hang on, Jonathan. You have testimony from the horse's mouth, if you will. Someone who has been intimate with Patricia Steer coming out saying that he talks about the hip size, the lack of hips in a woman, and of course we know women have wider hips. If you've been intimate with a woman, you know that.
Yeah, the hourglass figure.
Right, exactly, and you have a kind of an arch in the lower back. You also have different proportion sizes from head to shoulders, and so I have a PDF here that goes through all of the different things. So
I think I've read it.
So Antonio, who has direct experience with this woman, talks about these different anomalies, and says what he says now. Her name being Patricia Steer in the first. What are the chances? Honest to God, what are the chances, right, that this is true? Now, this is what I asked Martin as well. Martin seems to be friends with both of them and all of them at this stage again. And I'm saying to Martin, how can you be friends with two people where one called the other a rapist and the other calls the other a transgender psychopath, if possible CIA or intelligence operative? Now, either one of them is a psychopath, both of them are a psychopath, or else it's all an act. And then I said, is it an all an act, Martin? And Martin got a bit flustered. Martin, lead key, Jamie. But so who knows what's really going on? But this is from the Horseman. And if you do the transgender investigation into Patricia Steer, she ticks a lot of the boxes. So that's what I was going to say. What are the chances with all of this that a steer turns out to be?
What he means she ticks a lot of the boxes, and then adds a signature at the end to sign her soul away. I mean, I'm on the I don't know
what are the chances that a steer? What are the chances that a steer would be? We mentioned this last night. A steer would be a young castrated bull calf. Come on, I mean, this is scripted out. This is, you know what I'm saying. That's why I'm calling them out as actors, because they're playing a role probably from the get-go. Remember, I asked as well who, if anyone can remember, was the first to sort of promote the Gleason's map. I was thinking Antonio, and I think that's the first place I've seen it, and Martin as well. So again, I think these are all clue markers. And interesting that Doomweaver, Robert Shortman, was in that picture with Patricia Steer, Antonio. You know him, he's goofy, like he's zoned out in it at the meeting. But then there's Martin Liedtke, and then there's Robert Shortman. And of course, Chris Flat Earth Jackson is going on to deal with on a Doomweaver show soon, isn't he? So that's interesting as well. But anyway, interesting.
Well, I guess we got some interesting characters in the FE community, huh?
That's what I'm saying. But by you saying, Jonathan, if you're on board, well, how do you feel about Theresa May then? I'm sure you don't care as well. But if you're on board,
I don't know much about that.
I mean, for me, if you're on board, Michelle Obama being a transgender, Theresa May is a sort of piece of cake. It's a give me, like.
They call it Michelle Obama, holding her hand up and in a picture where they could measure the hip-shoulder ratio and these other things. So that's a little more firm. No pun intended.
The other goes much deeper than that. Marilyn Monroe is a man.
Yeah.
You mean
do you have a picture of her hand or anything?
There you go, Jamie. There you go, Marilyn Monroe.
Do you have a picture of Marilyn Monroe's hand or anything? Or do you have her measurements at all?
Type it in, man. I mean, this is what I'm saying. You have to type into to YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I'm happy to investigate, sure.
Yeah. One of the big pinup, Raquel Welch, she's a bloke. There's so many of them. And honestly, it's just, if you're interested, Jonathan, I have a link I could post to Fakeologist. It's a studious investigation into all of this, and it's far more widespread than what we think.
How'd they get such a female body?
Well, if a lot of these transgenders are taking place at early ages, they will have gone through the whole shebang. They will have gone through the whole shebang in terms of procedures and
right,
drug enhancements, operations, etc. The whole shebang. That's a good one, James.
And they're getting better as well. They're getting better, these operations.
Oh yeah, they were always great, Steve.
It's hormones too.
They drip fed us. Has been around for ages. Yeah.
And the pheromones as well. Pheromones make anything look nice.
Yeah,
it really is.
We have a lot of hormone blockers in our food and stuff now. We have, like, in our cans, we have that bisphenol A. That's
plastic bottles, right?
Yeah,
and on the cans.
On the insides of cans, they spray BPA now. And as you know, that's a hormone mimicker. That's an estrogen mimicker.
Do you think that makes people homosexual then?
I don't know about the homosexual thing, but it's what it's going to do is it's going to mimic estrogen in your body. You don't want that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've looked into this stuff, and even now they have the BPA free stuff now. So
nice.
Either there's something really in it, or people are actually buying into it because people buy into the idea that it's actually bad for you.
Well,
I don't know.
There you go. There you go.
You know what I mean? There's two sides. You know what I mean? You can't. It's so difficult because the way they do it is they do it in such a way that it's so difficult to discern. It's kind of like they're just trying. They're tricking you basically.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go.
Well, speaking of Antonio and Patricia earlier on, Skyfly Bright was saying I should send a link out to them to get them on or something, whatever, to try and get more subs, but that might not be a good idea if they're pushing disinformation.
I think Antonio does some pretty awesome work. I mean, he's sharp.
Yeah, a little too sharp, Jonathan. A little too
Not
sharp.
too sharp. He's doing it pretty openly. Well, you know, somewhat openly. He's doing a good job, I think. I've always enjoyed him.
Well, okay, so let's tell me what his work has taught you. Tell me.
Well, I mean, he's one of the first ones who did the sun tracking, right?
Yeah, but don't tell me how far you've come in your understanding of a greater model based on what Antonio has produced.
Antonio hasn't really made a model, has he?
Tell me what you've learned from.
He's made he's kind of modified his map based on the findings of the sun tracking. Basically where people are, and then changing the shapes of certain continents based on the sun tracking finding. And
there is no flat earther that can come up with an accurate model. I mean, no flat earther can ever explain two celestial poles, star trails going in opposite directions, north
it's totally
and south.
impossible, dude. Totally impossible, man.
Yeah, like
there's no way that Donald Trump's going to win the election.
That's Tim Osmond there, if anyone didn't get that.
No, that was bloody terrible, Jamie. You need to get your accent sorted out.
Yeah, I missed that one. Sorry.
I was just trying. Well, I wasn't trying to mimic him exactly. I just.
Okay.
I was just like.
He
comes out with the same old rhetoric, doesn't he?
Yeah, he says the opposite, and he's always contrarian. And
well, I can come up with empirical evidence to support the spherical Earth model.
Antonio's map is wrong, as is the Gleason's map. Antonio swung the continent of South America around clockwise, and I brought up the anomaly to him regarding time and date. Tell us that Brazil, east coast of Brazil, is in the same time zone as the west coast of Chile.
But time and date is wrong, and that's why he's doing it.
Time and date's been proven wrong by Antonio himself, but. I mean,
I know that.
He actually contacts them. Antonio contacts them and says, "Look, this is wrong." And they're like, "Oh shit, yeah, it is," and they change it.
I know that, but it isn't proven wrong to the tune of 3-4 hours. You know, this is not the degree of which we're talking about. But he turned around the continent clockwise. You see, the time and date has to get it approximately right, because you and I can go at any time and see the position of the sun or see our relative time zones, and it will. In general, correlate to our experience. You know what I mean? They can't have it miles out. But yeah, that's an anomaly that needs explaining, and Antonio can't explain it. Now, I can explain it. But yeah, that's what I was asking you, Jonathan. Sure, there's a lot of work involved. Sure, there's a lot of cooperation. Where have you advanced based on what he's produced? How have you advanced?
I would just have to say I enjoyed it. I mean, there was a lot of flat earthers in the channel when he was doing it. Hundreds, right?
Yeah. Again,
the only thing I can really think of is that the time and date was off, but it wasn't off by much, just a few minutes, like you were saying. So
again, how do you explain time and date having the east coast of Brazil? You can picture the map: the east coast of Brazil, the closest side to Africa, on the same time zone as the west coast of Chile. You know, it should be at least 3.
I recollect that I was traveling somewhere and I was watching it on my phone live, and I recollect that there was somewhere that was at least 20 to 40 minutes behind.
Oh, that's quite a bit.
Yeah. So speaking of the sun tracking, I noticed there was someone who was. I mean, I was watched a bit, but it seemed like that guy that was was Chris Attention Seeker. Sorry, Chris Truth Seeker.
Oh, that's very good, Jamie.
I thought you were talking about the other Chris Explanator.
He's Greek. He's not angry. That's pride, or whatever he calls it. I don't know.
No, Antonio's an actor. Antonio's exposed himself.
Well, Antonio is an actor.
Yes, he is.
Like daytime, nighttime.
Well, there you go. I mean, you can bring all these things out. There's a whole nother big drama about that.
I mean, he is an actor. If you look at him, he's very I don't know. He's not kind of vain, I guess would be the word.
All knowing on every topic.
Whenever he looks at the camera camera. He's always looking at the camera in a certain way sometimes to kind of get the best kind of side of him on there, I mean, everyone does that. I look in the mirror and I'm like,
That's probably what you
I always think the right side of my face is the best side of my face.
He's a transgender, isn't it? Because he's still got the feminine qualities.
Well, he's explained a lot of things. I mean,
he likes looking in the mirror.
You are an infiltrator. Goodbye.
I kind of liked his infiltrator episode. I thought that was neat.
I didn't see it, but it seems like he's just saying that everyone, well, not everyone, but he's like,
no. He picked a couple good ones.
Because there was that drama with him and Nathan Oakley, weren't there, or something? And it was like
that was the void in the flat Earth movement where that was when the whole Patricia Steere thing went down, and Patricia Steere left Antonio, and then that's where the whole thing came up, and there was the whole void in the kind of flat Earth movement.
It's just kind of turning it into Coronation Street.
Yeah, one side of the street hates the other. But so yeah, that's what happened, and
it'd be cool if there was a flat.
Leadker was kind of a guy in the middle. He didn't really. I mean, he likes Patricia Steere. He also likes Antonio, but Antonio kind of pushed him away.
Well, I like Patricia Steere, but then I like Antonio Subirats. But which one's better? There's only one way to find out.
Fine.
We'll get a boxing ring set up.
You got me on that one.
So it should be all right.
No, that's.
I think Antonio does more for the scientific part of our community.
He is active in the experiment kind of thing. That's one thing he has going for him.
You mean an active actor?
He's active in the way that he wants to do experiments, and others don't really want to do experiments. They're not really active in that kind of area. They're just saying the same things. And
I'm guilty of that too.
And Antonio is active in the experiment area of things. He's actually doing, they're doing experiments, and he's put a lot of time into it.
If they're sent here to lead the movement, right? If this is part and parcel of their role, of course they're going to be active. Antonio's almost too active, He's just on the go with Flat Earth all the time. If he's not,
wondered how he did it all, man. He did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but again, what have you come to in terms of your understanding?
No, I was partially agreeing with you, Pete.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How far have you come in 2 years? You know what I mean?
He's explained a lot. I mean, he's confronted a lot of trolls. He's unified the community. He's spread information. I mean, he's done a few things. It's not like he hasn't done nothing.
No, of course I know that.
It's baby steps, man. It's baby steps.
I'm just asking you, Jonathan.
We need baby steps.
What can you say now? I understand this now. That
I don't have much to put on the table.
Antonio and his hard work.
I just think it's great that he discussed a lot of these topics and was able to explain some of the stuff.
That's true as well, and I understand.
He really did that. I mean, I guess that's what he did.
That's the way I look upon these people as well. They are actors upon the stage. We learn more from what they can talk about over what they can, but that doesn't mean there isn't a whole hell of a lot of valuable information in there as well. I look upon this as an awakening process, and this is all about the individual who's doing the listening, asking themselves the pertinent questions, trying to make sense out of all of it. So yeah, when I say an actor as well, what I simply mean by that is somebody.
Who is someone you found that was able to give you some good information and stuff? Who's an example?
What was the start of that?
I was just wondering, like, who you might have found that was able to give you good information and. Again, Jonathan, there's good information everywhere, man. I mean, everyone has. Do you like ODD? Do you like Mark Sargent?
Mark Sargent is like your number one enemy.
No, I don't have any enemies, man. These people are actors; they're playing a role. So,
why is Mark Sargent's microphone a ball? That's really.
Mark is all about the clues. Mark Sargent Prepper. He's the lead. All arrows, all directions point to Mark Sargent. So you have to pay attention there. But it's Mark Sargent connects to Patricia Steere, Miss Steere, Mystery. Again, it's all a narrative, So we can't throw out all the information because there's good information there. There's a deeper level as well. These people will take you so far. I said this to you as well, Jamie. If you want to go further, there is further you can go, and that means relooking at Mark Sargent's clues on a different level. There's a separate level of clues that he's putting in there. Mark Sargent Prepper, Sergeant Pepper being. Yeah.
Well, I certainly don't have a clue if it's real or not.
Well, this is it. I'm just telling you where I'm at, and I'm pretty happy with that. But again, it's never no judgment against the man or the woman. They do what they do.
What? So you're saying that Patricia Steer could get Mark Sargent pregnant?
What do you think about and I don't want to kind of go to something we're talking about Antonio Subrats, but what do you think about Anthony Riley?
I like Anthony. I like from the bit I heard. I haven't.
Well, he's been going out and doing his own experiments, hasn't?
Well, I had a problem with what he said in his last hangout.
What did he say?
When he was drawing diagrams on paint, and I'll show you. I've got it open. Yeah,
I like
if you can present me.
Well, I'll present you again then.
Yeah, just present me.
Is that right?
Okay, so look, the bottom one was what he said, right? He said that the horizon rises to eye level, which everyone says.
Yeah.
I have a problem with it because if the horizon rises to eye level, that means that whatever is at your feet, the ground at your feet, as you go further out to the horizon, is rising to your eye level.
Well, it would never come quite up to your eye level, would it? Technically.
Well, right. I mean, that's what he said. He showed this. This is the exact thing he showed at the bottom of the screen here. This thing.
Oh, that looks pretty good. That's asymptotic there at the end.
Yeah, and so this one, I mean, obviously with the top one, this is the flat Earth. So if you had, obviously, imagine. Okay, so imagine this. It was a lot longer. This guy was tiny, like here, looking all the way out. Yeah, it's going to appear as if it's rising to eye level because of how far away it is. Imagine how can I put this? Looking at something like a star, for example. Pick a star, any star. Look at it. Go somewhere else. Look at it again. It's not going to look that. It's not going to look its move that much because it's so far away. Same thing with the horizon here. Is that it's so far away? It's going to appear as if it's.
Yeah, but when you zoom in on it, it'll appear to drop slightly, won't it?
It would appear as if it's rising to eye level, but it's flat.
But if you zoom in on it, it'll actually appear to have dropped slightly. Am I right in saying that?
If you're talking about a globe,
going to be sort of like atmospheric conditions that are going to.
If you're talking about a globe, then if you're talking about a globe, but if you're talking about a flat Earth, it's going to be it's going to appear as if it's at eye level, but it isn't. It's essentially just I guess perspective and
it is perspective. Of course, we all know that. That's how it.
Yeah, perspective. Well, perspective is kind of a catch-all thing, isn't it? So
it is a catch-all.
Okay, so
that's how it works. That's how we record this information, Steve, based on how the visuals work. So this is just a part of the parcel that we have to incorporate into anything that.
He's going to have a yellow head, I'm afraid. So
I don't see anything wrong with what.
It's going to be difficult to discern whether it's eye level or not. So, but it's going to appear as if it's eye level based on observation.
Well, these globers, they go on about geodetic survey and theodolites and stuff, and they reckon they can prove it drops.
Yeah, theodolites.
So, how would you explain that then?
From what I've understood is that what they say is that every 3 miles is apparently as far as you can see. Obviously,
that's when you're standing on a beach.
Yeah, so they say like this is okay. So this is an Earth. Actually, no. I should just create a new one. No, I don't want to say.
Well, here's a problem. Yeah. Just while Steve is doing that, here's a problem. If you look at my avatar, let me just turn off the camera a second. If you were to identify the horizon line, most people would identify this false water line here, the visual one, as a horizon line, whereas in actual fact it's not. So if you're zooming in on any distance, you have to make sure you identify properly the correct line.
Whatever they say is, come on, zoom in. Jeez, the ball needs to be bigger. So they're saying that, like, okay, so you have a tower, and I need to rotate.
Well, it'd actually be a slight angle, wouldn't it? So, but there's not really much point because if it's only 100 miles away, then they would be ever so slightly.
So
1.5 degrees or something.
Yeah,
in 100 miles.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it? It's like every 2 miles is 2.1 or 3 degrees of drop.
Every 79 miles is 1 degree.
60 69.17
69
actually.
is
Yeah.
1 degree.
Yeah.
So yeah, but obviously
you-
that's
You'd
a
never
really
ever
far.
see a building leaning over. You'd never ever see anything leaning over.
Yeah, that's true, because even if it were a globe, then it would
Boom. But then that
be
depends on
too
the.
big, wouldn't it?
They always say it depends on the observer height and so that. But then they've also got the refraction and all that stuff. And then Anthony Riley talks about standard refraction, and I didn't know that refraction had been standardized.
Well, it probably would be based on standard conditions of temperature.
I mean, what is
pressure.
standard though? I mean,
Well, that's what the Metabook website claims anyway.
but what is standard? What is standard
Average,
refraction?
general average, I guess, just like a standard. You have an annual
I
temperature.
hear that refraction a lot. It's pretty BS-y.
But I mean,
Sounds
it could.
like a lot of BS.
Yeah, it's another scapegoat along with gravity.
Well, I've said this from the get-go. That's why my avatar is there. You have to deal with this. The property of water, when viewed over a long distance, it acts like a mirror. So you're actually dealing with not refractive air mirages for the most part, but you're actually dealing with reflected light against a watery mirror-like surface. This is what's happening, as you can see in my avatar here. So
But I don't know. I mean, I can understand the top one, I can understand that, but I don't understand this, how that can work, having a guy here looking that way towards a horizon that's rising because water's supposed to be flat and level, and you can't have flat and level water that's curving upwards to your eye level from where you're standing. That just can't happen. You can't have that.
Well, they'd be like,
So I think
the Earth's
Anthony
so
Riley's
big
wrong on
that it doesn't quite come up to your eye level, but it seems to
appears
almost...
Well, but that's just down to perspective. Then that's not.
right. It appears
That's
to.
It
Steve.
appears
No,
to.
doesn't.
That's it.
Well,
It appears to. It seems like
technically-
maybe if you measured it, it isn't because it's staying flat. It's a bit like the train tracks. You're seeing them go away from you.
Well, it's never going to
because it's higher.
rise to your eye level. That we keep saying that, but
Yeah.
technically, it's not going to reach your eye level. It'll never reach it. It'll be a curve like that line you got on the bottom. It's really supposed to be an asymptotic curve. It's not supposed to be a straight line. It'll go up. It'll get close to our eye level, but it won't reach it.
Okay, I'm done presenting now, Jamie. I don't know. I don't even know how to stop it. I pressed the thing. I don't know. There you
I'll
go.
stop presenting you. Hang on, is it?
Yeah,
How do I click off? Because it's like
You just click off. Just click anywhere on the.
white
Yeah. Just click off anywhere on the
box
in the
around
center.
here.
Yeah, just click anywhere in the center of the Hangout window.
Hang on. Oh,
Does that work? Oh, just click on me, or just click on me again.
No, yeah.
There you go, yeah.
Right, so I didn't realise you had to double click off it or something. I don't know.
Are you on a Mac or something?
I'm on a laptop.
Oh, okay. So yeah, Anthony Riley, I don't know about him. He seems like a nice bloke. But when he was coming out with that stuff, and I was just like, wait, it's flat, but you're saying it's going up, and you're saying water is flat, and you're saying that water finds its own level.
Well, it's perspective.
How can it go upwards? And people were, and then I was giving the definition of flat, and then they were like, well, that's not the definition of flat, and I'm like, what is flat then? What you're saying it's flat, but it isn't flat. So what is it then?
Railroad tracks, yeah.
It's just the railroad tracks. It's the oh gosh, what is the term? It's not. Is it It's not
Well, when we
parallax.
say to eye level, we mean it appears to come up to
It
eye
appears,
level.
yeah. Steve.
Because if you tried zooming in on it, it would actually.
You get into the kind of
It
0
would
point.
actually drop off, wouldn't it? It would, because if you
It
say
is.
you had something right at the horizon, say like a tower or something,
It's called
you tried
the
to
zero,
zoom in on it.
0 point or something. The 0
would.
point where it's that's it. That's as far as you can see.
The water at your feet you're looking down at, Steve. You have to. This is all part and parcel of the sort of how the eyes work. So again,
But I was getting to this. I was kind of like, but you're saying it rises to. So if it rises to eye level, then that means that the water that's at your feet. If you're standing on a beach, and you're looking out, and they're saying it rises to eye level, I was thinking that so the water's going out and it's rising to my eye level, which means that the water isn't flat and it's going up at an angle.
it appears to.
It appears to.
You have to remember that the more water you're looking out upon, the bigger the angle it takes up. So in other words, you have half of the angle of viewing taken up by the water, pretty much, and half by the sky. This is just how it works. I mean, it's like I think Jaron did the hurdles example. When you had a camera right down by the hurdle, and you're looking. We know a track is flat, but it gives that impression that it is ramping up or stacking up. This is just how our eyes work, and cameras are based on how our eyes work.
Yeah, and there were a good point that Anthony Riley made about the ships going over the horizon, that it could be just due to, you know, waves in the foreground blocking out what's in the background.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it, Jamie. Think about a ship right in front of you sailing out. Think about that ship takes up in your vision in relation to the rest of what you can see. It's a pretty substantial angle. The further that ship sails out, right, that angle diminishes and diminishes.
Yeah, it gets compressed, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, the angle of previous waves will rise it, I guess. This is pretty.
I live.
Somebody tried to debunk the Isle of Man.
I live next to the sea, right? And I live in Hastings, so I walk around. I'm looking around, and I've seen this stuff out in the sea. I'm thinking it's cranes in the water, right? So I'm looking around. I'm walking along. I'm seeing this stuff. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, all I'm seeing is just cranes sticking out the bloody water. And I never knew I didn't know what it bloody was. I'm just thinking, why would cranes be sticking out the water?
Steve, here's the thing. What I would say, it's nothing mysterious. It's nothing like fatamorgamas or anything like that. It's about water acting over a certain distance and a certain sort of compression from your eye perspective or your observer perspective, acting like a glass mirror. This is what water does. We know it acts like a mirror in puddles. We've all seen the scenic mountain pictures, where you can see over the lake in the distance and the mountain is mirrored. This is what happens over long swathes of distance. And here's where the camera comes in as well. We can't make this out with our naked eye, because when the camera comes into reckoning, that all of these things resolve. But usually what you're dealing with is just light bouncing around against a mirror-like surface, and this is what's confusing.
I mean, the only I just want to put it out there, but I've looked at this and I look out and I see these cranes, and when I heard the Glober's argument for it, I was like, holy shit, wow! Like all I'm seeing is the top of the ships. That's it. I can't. This is just with my eyes, by the way. So all I'm seeing is the top of the ship. That's it. And it looks really fucking weird because I thought it was like, wait, are they putting like wind farms out there or something? And that's what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? Or are they putting just random cranes out in the water? All I'm seeing is just cranes sticking out of the sea. So I don't know what it is. I haven't used a telescope or anything like that.
Can you figure out what's going on in my avatar there, Steve? Have you ever put time into thinking what's going on in there?
That's very interesting.
Is there like two suns on top of each other?
I mean, this is the mirror line I'm talking about. This is how water acts when you introduce light into the equation and the observer. It's all observer dependent.
Well, this is the thing as well, especially with water. You have water that's evaporating, going up, because we have that. There's the cycle that they talk about. Where the rainwater or the sea evaporates, goes up, and then it rains over the mountains, and then the water goes down the mountains and then back into the sea, and it's just cycling of the cycle. Obviously, some of the water gets lost, I imagine, but that's as good as they can get it. So that's what they say. So there's water evaporating, I imagine, because it's the humidity and things like that, depending on how hot it is, right?
That is a factor in general, but a bigger factor is this: why the sun goes. If you could just press the play button on my avatar, the sun will eventually go away. So the sun is traveling away, right? What we would see, the last thing we would see, is the reflection of the sun on the water here as we're seeing it, and then it would just go dark. Oh God, I don't want to. Jamie, I explained my avatar before to you, but it takes a little bit of thinking. But when you see that this is the apparent water line here is not the real horizon. The real horizon line is a line drawn all the way across the screen in between the two suns there, or the sun tip and the real sun. And that has to be extended all the way across the screen. So that filling area in between is all a mirrored area. So it's mirror everything above it. This is what's to me, but it's a bit confusing to people apparently.
So if the horizon appears to be rising to eye level, this horizon is higher than eye level?
The actual horizon here is not the apparent horizon in my avatar.
Well, we can never see the horizon.
Right. You can't, only when there's contrast. You can see it when there's contrast. That's why. That's why
I've made the point before that validation boy, that we can't discern what the horizon is and what it is, because you can observe it, sure, but you can't touch it.
Because the closer you get, if you try and get closer to it, it'll get
Yeah.
further and further away.
Exactly. It's like chasing a bloody pie that's on a bloody stick hanging over your head and stuff. You know what I mean? Like a Dennis the Menace or something. You know.
The point is the mirroring effect has to be taken into account. It's a property of water. We've all looked into puddles and seen reflection. When you're looking over a vast body of water, this effect always comes into play, and you can see it in snap after snap. And people will call this, my avatar, an inverted inferior mirage or something like that. No, it's not, man. No, it's not. It's a fucking reflection. You have a reflective layer because you're looking. You see, the distance between the real horizon line, which goes across the whole screen between the two sun points there, and the apparent one, which is the water line we'd all identify.
But you refer to it as the mirroring line.
Yeah, but I know it's difficult language, but that distance could be anything from, let's say, 50 miles to 100 miles or 200 miles. You know, it's just sort of water compressed from our viewing angle. This is where it acts like a mirrored surface. It's literally a mirrored surface. We wouldn't notice it generally because there's no contrast. That whole mirrored surface is reflecting everything above it. So the clouds to the left and the clouds to the right of the sun have been reflected.
But this goes back to the buoyancy density thing with the obviously the densest water is obviously the sea, and then as you go up, you're going to have somewhat translucent water which is dense, which acts as a mirror.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of go on about this.
No, I don't mind.
The buoyancy and density is interesting.
Well, I wanted to go on about the Isle of Man picture because if any of you have seen it, it's a distance of 90 miles from up on Winter Hill, and it's well, apparently there should be about more than half of it should be below the horizon, but the thing is, I think it was like maybe it was Daz the cameraman or something, and I think it was Anthony Riley was like debunking him or something when he was saying, like, we weren't saying it. I mean, it was like what it did is he overlaid it like the Isle of Man, like on top of the Isle of Man kind of view from Winter Hill, and there was like, look, there was some obscured. Well, the problem with that is if you look at the Blackpool Tower, it's 518 feet, and that was only 25 miles in the distance. So if you was to actually then scale that down to the appropriate, if you to put it, say, next to the Isle of Man and compare it, then you're going to find that it's going to be about 3 times that. So you're probably seeing almost the whole thing, but obviously there is compression due to the convergence. So we probably don't know everything about the perspective right now. But
that could just it could just be the obviously the sun is there, and then there's the water below it, which is, and then you have the water that's also evaporating or going up, or just in the air, just ambiently. And as you go further up, of the air is becoming thinner and thinner. So
you think that it's like the densest layer of air is kind of.
And then as you go further up, it's less dense. So then it's creating this mirage.
So it's like apparent.
What you're seeing is a mirage.
It's a mirage, an illusion.
So you think it could be like an apparent horizon line or something?
What you're seeing is a mirage.
It's a mirage. It's a standardized mirage.
So you think it's an apparent horizon line then?
I think if based on the buoyancy density thing, it seems to make sense with it. As you go further up, and the denser it is, it's more reflective. So then it's reflecting. And as you go further up, that's where you get the curve.
So air is pushing on us, and that's doing it.
What's air? Not on us.
I don't understand the buoyancy thing. We're not floating around in buoyancy, are we?
Well, we float on water. And as the whole buoyancy density thing is just where as you go further up, the air is thinner, so there's less. Less dense.
The global argument is that why should there be an up and down?
If I was all buoyancying around right now, wouldn't I move more like a bubble or something? Would I be?
Would you be speaking in English, or would you just be going?
I don't know. Like when I think of buoyancy, I think of boats and bubbles and things in the air and. Wouldn't we be more like bubbles and stuff? I don't know.
No,
Buoyancy.
Okay, well, I think buoyancy is just there as a kind of like a quick kind of reference example thing, but density is the whole idea. Buoyancy less so, and density more so is what you've got to think of it.
You think static electricity has something to do with it?
Oh, there you go. That's a little better.
Just so if you imagine it in kind of like a water, if you imagine air as water, and anything that's heavier is going to go down to the bottom.
Well, what I'm saying is that the globe believer's argument is usually why is there an up and down? What's determining up and down?
It's gravity, mate. It's gravity.
Oh boy, here we are.
Jamie, you don't understand the gravity of the situation.
We live under a magnetic field. That's clear. We live in an ether, so we're in the midst of a magnetic field, and that will repel everything. So this is what I believe. So the higher you go up, the more you're sort of repelled down. And it's like two magnets. Two south poles repelling one. At a certain point, it'll become so strong. But that field effect is always there. That's how I see it. And of course, buoyancy and density.
Field effect
as well.
The field effect. There you go.
Okay, listen, I'm going to shoot out, and I'll say thanks.
It's nice chatting with you, Pete.
All right, P man.
Nice
Take care. Yeah. Stay safe, Pete.
Yeah. See you.
Bye. Thanks, Jamie.
Bye.
See you. So that was good.
So I mean, because I've heard the argument about the static electricity or something about what's causing up and down.
I have no idea about the static electricity thing.
It's hard. It's a hard subject.
Well,
it's a tough one.
I'm not really too sure, but it's
the only way I can understand is the buoyancy density argument is that buoyancy is basically
I don't feel air pushing on me. I don't feel like I'm buoyant.
Well, yeah, because air isn't.
None of these things are happening.
Well, air is okay. So if you think of it that like when there's wind, that's air, but that air is compressed because it's going.
Well, it is that we are pushing on the air, not that the air is pushing on us.
Well, yeah, it can be an either or thing. It's difficult. Like if you had two cars crashing into each other, you know what I mean? It's like they cancel each other out if they're going at the same speed, you know what I mean? And so they just hit each other.
Very interesting.
Or it'll be kind of like a doubled up. So if they're both traveling at 30 miles an hour, driving into each other, it'll be like they're traveling at 60 miles an hour. Or one of them's traveling at 60 miles an hour into a static car that's just sitting there doing nothing, you know what I mean? So the air is just blowing on, and you're you're feeling the resistance, or you're feeling the air blowing on you. But anyway, air is bloody confusing, so we're just going to go.
The reason why we're grounded, I think, it's just I mean,
buoyancy is just a kind of like a quick kind of like just a word that's there as an example, I guess, just so people can get buoyancy. Things float, right? Things that don't float are usually fucking heavy.
Yeah, it's just easy to grasp, isn't it? Really, for the beginners.
Yeah. And the density thing it's just So buoyancy, things that are light float. Things that aren't light and are really and are heavy just go down. That's it. So that's it. And then
but they'll demand what they'll ask is why is there an up and down, and why does a hammer and a feather fall at the same rate
in a vacuum?
In a vacuum where there is nothing there, there's no air. There's nothing.
That's a pretty good one. That helps me out. Yeah.
I mean, if you had enough altitude, I imagine you could get. Well, no, you couldn't. The feather has a lot of drag on it. Don't know, but if you get rid of the air, I think, isn't it? The medium is air. Which has water and other various things in it, and so when you pump the air out, there's no air. Everything just falls at the same speed because there's no resistance. That's it.
Does anything get lighter or heavier in a vacuum?
Well, you wouldn't think it'd have any weight, would you?
If you're dropping something lighter and heavier, it's kind of irrelevant.
Well, you think if it doesn't have any weight, then it would just float around or something.
What weighs more, a pound of feathers or a pound of no?
Isn't it a ton of feathers or a ton of bricks?
Well,
it's both a ton. It's don't know.
But that's what they try and use to prove its mass and not density.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think this is. I guess it's early days, really. So, but when we get to that point, we get to that point.
Yeah, we just got to kind of.
Yeah, I noticed. I was doing a little bit of research, and I noticed that the search engine traffic for flat Earth shot way up in January of 2016.
Yeah, I think part of that was probably
So-
due to celebrities coming out and
Not what B.O.B. or something. Or...
yeah, B.O.B. and Tila Tequila. Yeah,
that was the one.
I feel this was pretty accurate as far as my research goes. I went to a couple. One of them was Ahrefs website, and I checked there. And it was January 2016. It shot way up, and then it fell, and then it started going up again. And just this year in March, it's the same as it was in January of 2016. So
yeah, I was looking at that. It seems pretty similar, like spike,
So
and,
we're back
and then
up
the Kyrie Irving thing.
we're back
might have
up.
something to do with that.
It's growing a little bit. It's a little slow.
Yeah.
It's a little slow, but
Yeah, and it's not like plummeted back down at least. So it's like
no, it never did. After January 2016, it went down a little. Does it really spike?
But it's like it spikes, but then it
then
goes
it went
down,
back
but
up.
it doesn't go back down as far as it because there's more people that come on board then, and then
Oh yeah, I didn't look too closely, but we're
because
back.
most of the talking is people ridiculing it basically.
Well, that's normal. That's normal with any trend. It'll happen like that. So
Go up and undulate a little bit, yeah.
So yeah.
So do you think there's anything big going to happen soon then?
Pretty interesting. I don't know. I believed a few things. I believed Fukushima was going to be bad, and it didn't turn out as bad as I thought. I bought the Nibiru for a few months. I was on Nibiru,
You mean Jabiru?
No, Nibiru. Nibiru. Come on,
so
man.
they put out these
Nibiru.
things to scare us, man. They're just trying to rattle us.
Trying to keep us off balance.
Yeah, we don't
know what's going on.
They're trying to keep people on their toes, aren't they?
Yeah.
And distracted, basically.
Yeah.
We should be the ones keeping them on their toes.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I'm just thinking like we should be keeping them on their toes, because I'm a crazy guy, Woman, I'm a nice guy. Woman, I'm a bad guy. You know what I mean? I could switch at any moment. You know what I mean? Sound like a fucking insane person.
yeah. Let's let for a bit like pretend we're on their side, and then kind of. and then expose them.
Well, I'm glad there's vaccines and
and like fluoride in the water and
fluoride.
Mate, look, if you haven't had the vaccine yet, you're putting everyone else that has had the vaccine at risk. All right.
Oh,
about that, yeah.
Right, you get the vaccine, and then you're not at risk from me.
Exactly. And then you're not going to affect me because I've already had the vaccine. But because you haven't, you're putting me at risk because I've had the vaccine. And that means that anyone else that hasn't had the vaccine is putting me at risk.
I haven't had the vaccine. You better go get it. And if you don't, you're putting people at risk.
Yeah, you're a fucking asshole, and you're killing people. You're a murderer. You're a fucking murderer, dude. Fucking killing children right now. You know that? I hope you feel good about yourself.
That's it.
You guys
use children. They use children all the time.
Why on earth would we lie about 22 children dying in an arena? Why would we lie about? Come on, man.
You guys, you conspiracy theorists, you think everything's a conspiracy. You're just arguing.
You just think everything's a conspiracy.
You're just arguing from incredulity.
I mean, obviously,
there are all these complex words to kind of.
There's been some people that have lied about rape or lied about other things, but we're telling the truth. You got to listen to us, all right? We're not lying about 22 people dying on the 22nd of May by a suicide bomber at age 22. We're not lying about that. That's true. It's totally true. Okay, so why would we lie about?
Who do they blame for it?
Why on earth would we lie about 22 people dying on the 22nd of May from a suicide bomber age 22? Why would we lie about that? It's like they think we're fucking morons, dude. They think we're fucking idiots.
Did they blame anybody for the
Salman Abdul.
Come on, more
22 years old.
Middle East bullshit. Really?
Can you believe it? 22 years old. Can you believe it?
What's next? Lone gunman? Lone gunman.
What's next? What's next? 22nd of June. Come the fuck up. Watch this space, guys. 22nd of June at 10 o'clock.
He was Islam, the guy?
2200 hours, 10 o'clock. So what?
I was just wondering if the guy they blamed was Islam.
Yes. I mean Muslim, not Islam. Come on, man. Get your religions sorted out.
So are you religious then in any way?
I'm not, no.
So none of you are you?
I mean, there's a creator, right? Can we agree there's a creator?
I don't know.
I'm
gonna watch this space, all right? And when I say watch this space, I don't mean look up at the sky. Yeah, I'm just like sitting on the sidelines, I guess. I don't want to hedge my bets.
I never met Jesus myself, and I don't know anybody who has.
Although there was this one guy, I think his name was Joseph.
But
He
I
met
believe
Jesus.
I believe there's a creator.
I don't think Jesus remembers seeing Joseph though. But Mary gave birth to Jesus. So I suppose Mary knows. Is there anyone else that was to come on? Is there any of the usual guys? I see Chris Fe was on a moment ago in the chat. I guess lurking because he's Evil Edna. So
and paper explanator and Psyopticon. I don't even know who any of these people are, to be honest. But
I don't even.
I mean, I've seen paper explanator.
I've seen paper explanator.
Chat, but I've never heard him speak.
I've had cancer, so like I've been through shit. So like when paper explanator said he has cancer, I felt really bad. But he's alive. Like that's either that's a miracle. I mean, if he's actually got this far,
maybe the flat Earth knowledge got him through it.
Maybe cannabis.
I'm glad to hear
he's just bought a huge load of cannabis and he just smokes it all and he's saved himself.
How did you get rid of your cancer?
Conventional, unfortunately.
Chemotherapy?
Yeah, radiotherapy, chemotherapy. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, just to let everyone know, I'm going to be shutting it down in about half an hour. So
all right, cool.
So it's going to be a bit late for anyone coming on, but
I've been taking CBD for the past month. Fucking amazing stuff.
For pain? Have you been taking it for pain?
Oh, just general kind of just well-being kind of stuff. Like,
nice.
I do have kind of like tiredness and things, so I just take it, and it's just amazing stuff.
I certainly want to try it.
Everyone else, my family and parents, they hate it. Like they the whole stigma around cannabis,
Oh yeah.
And I just think that's just fucking stupid. I mean, that's the whole thing about it, right? Is you just have to get away from the stigma. Just get away from that. Just forget about it, right? Because seriously, when I was thinking about buying it, I was looking at it, I was like, oh come on, man, cannabis, really? Are you going to go that low? I haven't even gone that low anyway. What is low? Like I was just like, fuck it, let's try it and see if it works. And it's amazing stuff. It's made me feel better. My skin and everything. It's amazing. Just bloody amazing. I think that cannabis in general is just in moderation is a brilliant thing. There are people that are successful,
Oh yeah, everything in moderation, even moderation.
And it takes you to another level. You can experience things in another light.
What did you just say? Everything in moderation, even moderation.
Even moderation in moderation is pretty good. So, but yeah, I think it's an amazing thing.
Even moderation in moderation in moderation.
Even in moderation fucking amazing thing, I tell you. But yeah, CBD, I totally recommend it. Everyone here is probably doing smoking a blunt or something, or
not yet. I'm working on it.
Okay, well, work on it faster. Go to Colorado. I heard Tim Osmond's got a few whatever they are.
I thought maybe he was in California.
Ask me why banana curves. It's because gravity, man. You flat earthers are a moron.
You flat earthers are fucking idiots, dude. Fucking idiots, man. Where's the fucking curvature, man? Look at my ass. There's some fucking curvature, you fucking idiot.
Well, you're just so stupid. You want to accept any spherical Earth evidence, and he goes like he gets all emotional.
What about the star trails, man? I mean, you can't see Sigma Octantis and the seven hemisphere, dude, from the northern hemisphere.
That's what I say all the time.
You can't see that, man. You can't see it.
Yeah, that P. Mars guy, it's just funny.
He's one of the flip-floppers. He was FE, then not FE, then...
All right, I heard something about that.
He's been bouncing around for a while.
Well, I thought he'd been stuck on the ball for a while or something.
He's stuck on the ball.
Yeah, he's a twirler now.
He's a spinner.
Twirler, I say.
Well, there was one thing. Yeah, listen, because I've kind of
is a waltzer.
I've heard a lot of the stuff about the globe model, right? And I think it was Martin that was on your stream not long ago.
Martin Leedkey, you mean?
Martin Leedkey. And he said that are you spinning on a ball? And I was like, no, that's not how the thing works. It's are you on a ball that is spinning? not are you spinning on a ball? Like you're not doing a ballerina spin on a ball. You're on a ball that's spinning. That's the whole the whole thing. Like
Yeah, because you're relatively still.
you're on a ball
Yeah,
that is
but the
spinning.
ball is spinning.
Yeah, you're not doing a ballerina spin on a ball.
I'm doing 1,000 miles an hour here. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, mate, I tell you, mate, I'm on like 1,000 miles an hour right now, mate.
But the 1,000 miles an hour is very deceptive because we only do one rotate. Actually,
It's only one
it was
rotation.
Jim Panda that was saying that. Well, actually, the 1,000 miles an hour is actually very deceptive because we only do one rotation per day, and that's only half the speed of the hour hand.
It's about as slow as you say it, Jamie.
Yeah, but the hour hand isn't 4,000 miles long. If you had an hour hand that was 4,000 miles long, then you could say that.
Your clock would be fucking huge.
You can't say that. So,
Antonio's going to have a bit of work on his hands.
these things they say are just funny and stuff.
Antonio, make a flat Earth clock. Spoiler: the owl hand is going to have to be 4,000 miles long. Oh gosh. Oh man. So yeah, I mean, 1,000 miles an hour, one revolution.
Jim Panda's Scottish cousin. They're saying, "Well, I admit I am wrong. It turns out Jim is capable of learning." What?
What?
Jack Panda, Jim Panda's Scottish cousin.
Jock Panda.
Oh, Shock.
Must be like some other guy I've seen hanging around called Ned Skeptic. Ned Skeptic.
Go Ned Skeptic? What'd you say? What was it, Jonah?
Of him, sure, I've seen another one of. Oh, I've seen that one. Gay Scottish Moor, and that was one of them. Have you seen that one? That was one of Jed Skeptic Media's. So why has he got like soccer caps? I mean, why has he created them, or is someone else?
I mean, Jed is like no one. Jed is like no one in the movement. Like literally, like no one gives a shit what he says.
What you mean is it like he's just like has almost zero relevance in the movement? You mean?
Yeah, he has like nothing, literally nothing in the movement at all.
So why does he have like all these subscribers and stuff then?
I mean, how many subscribers does he have? I haven't even looked.
Well, he has more subscribers than a lot of the bowl channels.
Well, he's a skeptic. So see what a skeptic is. It's like it's kind of like a hokey cokey kind of thing. Where like you were in, but you're kind of not in, but you're in.
So it's like a
hokey cokey position. My name's Jamie Brown, and I'm a flat earther, but I'm kind of skeptical of these other flat earthers that are kind of trying to lead other people down this wrong path.
Right.
That kind of thing.
So it's it's from what I've gathered, because I've not watched any of them really, but like a sort of wishy-washy John LeBon.
Yeah, it's pretty much. You've put the nail on the head right there. Yeah.
For an hour and say nothing.
Yeah, he would just go on about ancestry, some shit, and then spit in a bucket, and then send it to
from what I'm aware, he believes that flat Earth is to detract from the real conspirators. I mean, he talks from what I've heard.
I think there is some merit to that. I think that the flat Earth thing is because everyone's been taught it. I think that there is an element of truth to that statement. I think because it's so deep, right?
Yeah.
And 9/11, lots of people. If you notice, lots of people woke up when 9/11 happened.
That's been nice. I've really liked that a lot of people have been waking up to 9/11.
A lot of people woke up to it, and I think if you start pushing flat Earth onto them, especially when they've learned, education and things like that, they've kind of become accustomed to the, they're on a ball and da. I think it's too much of a jump. And
I'm gonna have to agree with that because I went through it. I had 2 wake ups. I didn't have 1. So
So I think that the 9/11 and all that, but when you start going flat Earth, I think it's good, but it's too soon for a lot of people. I think it's too soon.
Well, we don't even have enough people looking into it or anything, and we can't. Like, I'm a little more suspicious. I don't have a problem with that. It's like seeing what happened in January 2016, and then we have all this technology. I'm afraid some of these things might be to draw people out.
That's what you're trying to say, then.
I'm trying to say that I think that it gives the impression that flat Earth is around to kind of take the wind out of the sails of genuine. Well, I wouldn't say what it would be perceived as genuine conspiracy theories such as 9/11.
Well, it's like if you believe it's false, then that would be the conclusion.
Yeah. But the thing is that this gives the powers that be the fuel to then dissuade people from even looking into conspiracy.
So what that could be doing is that could be a psyop in itself.
It's a psyop within a psyop, because
so it's like a TARDIS within a TARDIS.
Listen, it's not just what people perceive. It's not just what whether it's true or not. Yeah, it's what people perceive as true. And if people perceive things as true, that is their truth. So you can perpetuate a lie, and it will become truth. So if everyone believed a lie, right, that lie is truth. Yeah.
Yeah, because that manifests.
Yeah. Because if everyone believed the lie, everyone believed it. The lie
doesn't become objective truth.
If you have enough people that believe it,
it doesn't matter whether it's objective truth or not. Everyone believes it.
There's objective truth.
Yeah,
but it doesn't. It doesn't matter though, because everyone believes it.
People believe this in curvature.
Those are 2 different things.
But it's a battle between people that know and people that have kind of a
belief. People that know and people that believe. There you go.
People that know, people that believe, and people that have they don't want to because of the stigma around it.
Right.
And you believe this, so therefore this. Whether the this is true or not.
Some people can see.
It just sounds outlandish.
Some people can see when shown, and some people can't see.
Yeah. Some people can do math. Some people can't do math good, and some people can't do math at all. You know, I fit in the kind of the middle bit.
I took a ton of math. Oh my gosh, sickening.
What do you say? You took a ton of math?
Yeah, I took in college. I took different maths.
Okay, that was before you became an agent. So.
Is it check-in time?
Yeah. No, you're not going to get paid. Sorry. Yeah.
So I'm here in Florida. Where are you guys?
I'm in the UK, and it's dark.
Right.
It's nighttime, and I imagine it's sunset where you are, or something.
Yeah, it's getting dark. It's almost 9, 9:15.
So the sun hasn't gone yet. Well, the sun has gone, but it's still kind of light, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't set till about. I think it was like 10 or something. Taking bloody ages to set now. Jeez.
Do you guys do daylight savings time?
Sometimes.
Yeah. It's a bit. Ridiculous,
sometimes, but I think it's like twice.
Oh my God. Yeah, we do it twice.
It's a bit ridiculous, isn't it, when you think about it? Because it's just
horrible. It's just a big joke. It's a big joke on us.
It's like I think it's April or something they do it.
Spring ahead, fall back.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's the end of March, I think, one of them. So it's just before April Fools. So
it just confuses the fuck out of me. And then I get like a more hour sleep, and then I get less hour sleep, and it just totally fucks me up. Yeah,
that's what they want to do, man.
They want to keep you off balance. Yeah.
Keep the slaves off balance, dude.
Keep the farmers doing the farming and keep everyone else off balance. Like, don't even know what's going on.
What you mean, like kind of dangle the carrot sort of thing?
Oh no. The whole idea around it is that when you go spring ahead and fall back is it's to do with the time, and so farmers have more time working during.
They fed us another story here. They said that people are keeping their lights on too much at night.
Fuck off. That's bullshit.
It's just a big con is the daylight savings, because you're not actually saving any time. It's just
nobody's saving any energy.
And what the fuck is global warming, man? Come on, there's like plenty more oil that came from Saudi Arabia.
Carbon warming or whatever, carbon credits.
There's plenty more oil in the sea, isn't there?
Yeah, it's not like the sea level was a lot higher back in the day, but they always make this shit up and say, "Oh, but it was floodlands. It was floodlands." Like, fuck off. off, it was floodlands. The sea was right up here. Fuck off. Are you serious? You seriously telling us it was floodlands? And then they irrigated it, because they gathered this new intelligence they could fucking irrigate stuff. Fuck off. Wait, you're saying they didn't grow stuff back in the day? Is that what you're saying? And then they suddenly managed to be able to grow stuff. Like, how were they able to live? This is even in the freaking Vikings and shit like that. Like, apparently the bloody Greeks and the Archimedes screw and everything, they were able to irrigate stuff and pump water higher. Oh, it's just fucking stupid, man.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're saying that they were able to irrigate and stuff like that, so they were able to turn the flood areas into kind of dry areas. Like, a load of bollocks. No, that's just because the ice built up because it was cooler, and so the ice built up and the sea levels went down, and that's where we are now. Now we're going back to where the sea levels are rising, and they're going to be going up to where those old forts and castles were, which apparently there was sea right next to them, but there isn't now. The sea is about freaking 2 miles away. It's just bullshit, and they're just lying. Oh, 5p a bag, 5p a bag. You want a bag? Oh, it's 5 pence. Yeah. Oh, guess how many people there are on the bloody earth? There's like 8 billion. Well, I mean, maybe in the UK there's about like a few
What
billion.
if that's a lie as well?
Yeah, it is bullshit. They even on the machines. It's not. You could literally just take a bag, and it's a 5p bag tax. So what they do is they push it onto you. You don't even have to pay that 5p bag tax. You could just take a bag and chuck your stuff in it and go on your way. They want you to give consent to paying that 5p for the bag.
So how do you avoid that then?
You just take a bag, because you are giving your consent. You are giving consent. That's the whole idea about it. Just like with voting, all this stuff. By voting, you are giving consent to whoever wins to rule over you. If you don't vote, you're not giving consent.
Yeah, but they use the masses against us.
They're masses. Yeah, they do. So
yeah, about this thing about the TV licensing as well, about how
TV licensing bollocks. Well, they try and intimidate you. That's what they do. They intimidate you, and then you either break, because a lot of people, everyone has anxiety problems, right? So that's what they take advantage of. They take advantage of that fact that people have anxiety. Hell, there's people that fucking take cocaine to try and just get through
your weakness, don't they?
They exploit your weakness, yeah. So you just don't take any of it. You have rights. Who gives a, you know what I mean? It's just stupid. They just take advantage of the fact that people have anxiety problems, and they'd rather just give over the money rather than have kind of like an awkward moment with the licensing guy. You know, like, there's nothing awkward about it. Just shut the door on them and just say I'm not paying. No, I mean, as long as you say the right things.
What, and to get on television? I mean, they're not gonna let you on television if you don't do what they want. Right?
No, it's TV licensing. Like, we have to pay like £100 a year to have a TV. But now they're trying to push it into if you have an internet connection and a fucking computer, then you have to pay a TV license because you can access it. Well, it's like, okay, then.
Oh my god!
You know what I mean? It's just bloody stupid.
That's so much.
They're just upping the ante, upping it, and so it's just like, oh well, then because I can access American TV, shouldn't I be paying the CNN and the Fox News some money because I can access their stuff?
Yeah, that's it. But and there's another fraud with the whole BBC, the whole advertising thing, and so I was saying, I can't remember about how BBC are advertising as well, because they do it in their programs.
Yeah,
the UK is always a step ahead of us in the bullshit department.
Yeah, it's almost like the UK is a military training ground to see how far you can push it.
It's stupid. You got those street lights that record. I mean,
yeah,
we're starting to get those now.
I don't know, and also, yeah. I mean, Theresa May is going to be pushing for regulation of the internet. So I'm just going to vote Labour as a protest vote.
That's a shame. That's just terrible.
I don't know. I think either way we're fucked. But
so between a rock and a hard place. So
the thing is, these people don't even understand how the internet works. So I don't. It's a bit like the FCC and stuff like that.
Criminally prosecute some of these people. I mean, we just gotta do something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like, we've got to do this because terrorism. Like we've got to change the way we live because terrorism. You've got to give us all your emails and access to all your emails and access to everything that you see on the internet because terrorism, it's fucking stupid. It's like these people come over, well, these people allegedly come over here. Yeah, just like gravity,
Everything.
Gravity and terrorism.
You go into the store to buy a reloadable card, you got to log in and put your name and social security numbers in case it's a terrorist.
Oh, yeah,
it's like, what? It's not.
Yeah, because a terrorist is totally going to use that and not use Bitcoin,
Yeah. Oh, right. Even.
Oh, Bitcoin, dude. Bitcoin is making leaps and bounds on the stock market, but he's going to just go. This guy is just going to go into some shop and buy a card, rather than use fucking Bitcoin. Are you fucking serious? You having a laugh?
Yeah. So what does Ebola and gravity have in common?
Terror.
No, they both get attracted to bullshit.
To bullshit, mate. Fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I'm gonna move along and do some stuff.
They both. No, that doesn't even make any sense, does it?
Oh man, it was
great
funny.
talking to you
It was
guys.
funny until you killed it, Jamie.
I had a good time. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm gonna be shutting it down in a minute anyway.
I'll be on again, I'm sure.
Shut it down.
It was nice talking to you, Steve.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you, Jonathan.
Pleasure. All right, have a good night, you guys.
Yeah, take care, dude. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of weird things going on. It's almost what you're seeing is you're seeing prices go up. You're seeing the internet. You're seeing the line rentals go up. You're seeing train ticket prices go up, bills go up, and you're seeing the laws being pushed, and they're just upping it slowly. It's a bit like raising the temperature on on a pan full of water, and there's a frog in it, and you're the frog. Slowly raising the temperature.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is like, why if wages are going up and why prices.
Not wages aren't going up.
But prices are going up for what? Well, they say that they keep raising the minimum wage and all that. And
that's bullshit. The minimum wage is the minimum wage. That's what, the minimum wage isn't actually the minimum wage. When they refer to the minimum wage, what they're referring to is the government recommended minimum wage, which the only company, as far as I'm aware, is Lidl that adheres to that and follows that. No other company follows that. They're a few quid behind.
I didn't even know that. I thought that.
So whenever they refer to minimum wage, they're referring to the government recommend. They're referring to recommended. They're not referring to like the government isn't enforcing it. It's not a law. Any company can. It's the minimum wage is the minimum wage, and then you have the government. Then you have the government. The government recommended minimum wage. But it doesn't reflect the average minimum wage. Doesn't reflect what the government wants it to be. That's how they get around it. Is they can say, "Look at what we're doing," but they're not actually doing anything. It's just recommended.
Right. So I didn't even know that because I thought they said about the living wage and then the minimum wage.
The living wage. Yeah,
and then
you have the
minimum wage. So I thought that was the absolute lowest that they could. Because a lot of people were getting that minimum wage. So I thought they could. When you start
work, when you're like in your, I guess like 16 or 17, you get paid. I think it's about £7 an hour, maybe 6 or something.
It might be a bit less. It might be
probably a bit less. Yeah. But as you get older, it goes up to like the £8 and the £9 an hour. Depending on where you work, obviously, and how much they pay and shit and blah blah blah. But yeah, there's a difference between the government recommended, but sometimes what they do is they bait and switch and just change the words around. So they say it's a minimum rather than a recommended minimum. Hey, look at what we've done. We're doing good. Look, we got a minimum wage, but we're not going to tell you it's a recommended minimum wage.
So why wouldn't people say, well, hang on, why am I only getting £5.50 an hour then?
Because the wage is decided by the company. But the way they do it is they pay the employee because people are so used to being paid like say £8 or £9. They just it's like what £1 extra or £1 less an hour. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? As long as you got a job, and especially when in these kind of times when it's difficult to get a job, people they're just happy with what they have.
Yeah.
So that's what they take advantage of. A lot of these companies do, because let's face it, a lot of jobs, as we already know, based on how many cuts and things there've been, they're not sustainable. Sustainable in the regard that you're going to be able to buy a car and do this and do that when it's difficult to find a job in the first place. So if you're in that position where you can buy a car and do this, do that, and then suddenly you lose a job. Like, where the fuck are you going to get the money from? Like, you need a job, and it's difficult to find a job. So yeah, that's what they take advantage of, because they know that you're not going to want to leave, really. Get into the rat race again and look for a job. They know that, so they know that you're going to be happy with it. But Lidl, which is Lidl, I think is the only company, as far as I know, which has kind of taken it on and decided to start paying £9 an hour, £9 something an hour, which is the government recommended.
I didn't realise it had gone up that much, to be honest. I thought it was about £7.50 maybe.
Yeah, it was about, I think it was about like 6 or something for like the people that are like in this like 15, 16, and then as you get older, obviously it goes up to like 7 or something, and about, I think about 8 is about 7 to 8 is where they do where the cutoff is, and then if a company wants to come along and start paying their employees more, then it's going to be the recommended minimum wage, which is the £9. So yeah, but that's Lidl's, and obviously there's other people that have they're getting like 10,000 a year or something. The per month thing.
I'm sure I've heard that the average American gets $50,000 a year.
That sounds.
I don't know if that's true or not. That's
average. So
that's about 40 grand a year, isn't it, for us?
That's not bad. That sounds maybe like when they say average, maybe they're kind of rounding up.
Yeah, because it's like the mean average.
I'd say like 38 or 35.
Yeah, I mean that's probably about right. But I mean, because you think, wow, that's quite a lot actually. But
it isn't a lot.
I mean, but there's most of the people are living in the big cities, aren't there? So
well, it isn't a lot of money, because it isn't really a lot of money. But if you spend it the right way, it can go pretty far, I suppose.
Yeah, like to the ice wall, for instance.
Wait, the ice wall that we haven't observed and we can't touch?
Well, yeah, we don't even know if that exists or not.
See, that's the problem with it. I think IPS has a good IPS. Although I fucking hate the guy. He's just called it an infinite plane. He doesn't really like to talk about the ice wall because it's an infinite plane.
Well, what? So you think there's a dome then or something?
I have no idea.
Well, I think it's a bit divisive in itself, kind of calling yourself infinite plane society, and it kind of it seems to kind of be getting a bit up.
Saying there's a dome, but you haven't seen the dome and you can't touch the dome, but there's a dome. He's saying it's an infinite plane, which is basically
you'd have to spend an infinite amount of time to get.
The dome doesn't exist based on like how you discern whether things exist or not. So it's an infinite plane because we know that there is land beyond.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense because it could still have an end somewhere.
Yeah, it can have well, that's then we're going back to the bucket of water. Then we're going back to the bucket of water, and you being really small inside the bucket of water, and then you could just be on the edge of the bucket of water, and you can because the bucket of water is so huge, you can't comprehend how huge the bucket of water is because you're on this one side of it. And infinite is fucking huge. It doesn't have to go on and on forever, but maybe how far we can comprehend it's just how far we can comprehend.
Well, I suppose we're only limited by our
perception and how far.
Oh, I was going to say imagination, but that's not really a good
imagination,
idea.
Perception. Imagination, because it's very difficult to imagine infinity.
Well, imagination comes from your perception of reality. It's formed from that. So when we imagine things, it has to have some kind of reference point, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. Our reference point is our reference point. Our reference point is where we are right now, where you are right now, who you are, where you're looking. That's you. You are your own reference point.
Yeah, but when we talk about imagining things that
that are infinite,
that are kind of abstract.
It's interesting to think about. It's interesting to think about, but it's extremely difficult for us to comprehend what infinite is.
Our mind would also need to be infinite to be able to comprehend it.
The
thing with infinity, you'll never get any closer to it because the closer you try and get to it, the further away it'll get. Like the horizon, you'll never get to it.
Well, do you think that our brains and our decision making have infinite possibilities? We could, do you believe that when you're thinking and making decisions in life, do you think that there are infinite things that you could have decided or decisions you could have made.
I'm not sure. I mean, that's a good question, but it's like I'm not even sure if there's infinite anything, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with infinite. It's extremely difficult to comprehend what infinite is because it's
well, infinite
it's like it's a number that never ends.
Yeah.
Or it's just something that's so huge that it's just like, well, we might as well just deal with
the
what
way
we have
that
right now.
Eternal Padawan said it, you just think of it as +1.
Yeah, it's whatever we know +1.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, and because you'll never get to the end of it, will you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, when you're doing screen sharing sometimes, and you're screen sharing the Hangout, and you're presenting yourself at the same time, and it's just a mirror within a mirror within a mirror within a mirror within a mirror.
It's like if you was looking at a mirror and the reflection of another mirror.
yeah, it's Inception, man.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. I've not watched it, but
that movie's bloody amazing. It's like a dream within a dream within a dream. Well, they start off first a dream going into a dream, and then they go into a dream within a dream, and then they find out that if they go into a dream within 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 a dream, right? That if they die within the dream within the dream within the dream within a dream, they die. Dude, it's fucking nuts, man. It's like having a what they called lucid dream in a lucid dream it's just but they have to take this special stuff.
Have you ever had a lucid dream?
I had a lucid dream once, but I was on some drugs. So
have you ever astral projected?
What is that?
Like a out of body experience. You're like when they talk about the astral body. No,
I've never had that. I've been to sleep and I've been under the knife so many times, and I've never had that. I just go to sleep and wake up.
Well, they say that you're best off trying to achieve it at morning when you wake up, because that's when your body's still kind of
asleep.
Like kind of, but your mind is alert. So
I've had times where I've woken up from operations and where you're coming to, but you have this horrible taste in your mouth from the anesthetic, and you can hear everything going on around you, and it's just a blur. Even when you open your eyes, it's just a blur. It's fucking horrible. It's like your eyes haven't woken up and everything's out of focus. I've had that many times. But it's
unlike the stars that are supposed to be millions of light years away.
It's pretty awesome when you wake up after general anesthetic, right? And when you go to sleep, it's like a buzzing noise. Once they give you the anesthetic, it's a buzzing noise that gets louder and louder. And it's probably best to close your eyes, but your eyes do get very heavy. It's a really weird experience. And
it sounds like you're talking about an experience with a dildo.
No,
with a vibrator. I mean,
no. It's there's this buzzing that happens in your ears, and it just gets louder. It doesn't get louder. It doesn't it's not like it hurts your ears or anything. It's not like a noise like we'd have in real life, like a plane or really loud jet or something. It just kind of gets to this point where it can't peak any further, and you just fall asleep. And when you wake up, you kind of have this buzzing, and it kind of fades away, and then you just have this. You're just in this wake up mode where you're kind of like half asleep, half awake, and your eyes aren't focusing.
It sounds like it's some like reaching a crescendo or something like that.
Yeah. And time is nothing when you go to sleep. Seriously, when you fall asleep, it's almost like time was nothing. I've had an operation that lasted 6 hours, and I can tell you, I just fell asleep and woke up. As far as I'm concerned, nothing happened between that time.
Yeah, it seems like that every night. You go to sleep, you wake up.
That's it. Yeah.
Because
there's nothing between. Even when you have a dream, like that dream, it can feel like it lasted hours and hours or days, but kind of compressed.
Yeah, it depends how eventful it is, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
But at the same time, the less eventful something is, when we're awake, and then it seems to kind of take longer. Like, like when you're staring at the clock all day and it seems to drag.
Yeah, but then when you've actually got to that point where you've finished looking at the clock, you're like, oh, not much time went past. I don't know, it's weird. I think it's kind of a desensitization to time, and that's why when we get older, time feels like it's going faster, because we've become desensitized to it. We've just got used to the fact, we just got used to it so much.
Because the time's no matter anymore. You just you're somewhat occupying it, so you kind of don't notice it anymore. So it's just
the thing. And as you
past,
get,
doesn't it? Yeah.
But when you're younger and you're like, say, like 9 or something, and you're in school, you're like, fuck's sake, man, I'm in school for like 6 hours. Oh my god, that's so long. An hour is so bloody long. But like now, an hour is like what? Nothing.
Yeah.
When you get to like your 20s, it's not long at all.
So I was thinking, like, how do we know if time is actually going quicker and slower? We can't really know. That sounds crazy.
It can either time going quicker and slower can either be because you're becoming desensitized to it. Because
I say, what if it actually is slower
or faster?
Whatever.
It could be. Maybe because you're, I don't know. Yeah.
Because if you're not paying attention to it, it could be like Toy Story. If you're not paying attention to what that's going on in the kitchen, then they'll just be like, playing around and like.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that people have been looking into, like, and it is a thing that people have noticed. People don't like to talk about it or talk about it much because it's really a horrible thing. Time going faster as you get older is fucking horrible.
Yeah, it's like you'd want it to go slower and slower.
You're just falling into a black hole, like from
beginning
as you get older.
There's no going back. There's no going back, and you're going to get sucked into it exponentially faster.
So it could be just the immersing yourself in time, and because you're desensitizing yourself to time and minutes and hours and seconds.
And kind of just living in the moment, I suppose.
You're just living in the moment.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I think that's what a lot of people do, just living in the moment. This is the thing, don't think, because, don't think, it's a killer. You think too much.
Yeah, so it's kind of irony because it makes time go slower, but makes you not live as long, probably.
Thinking too much, yeah.
Because, we don't really know what's our true kind of life expectancy could be,
But we have no idea.
It could be 200-300 years or more than that, even. Some are saying, like, if, because about the telomeres, how it gets shorter as you get older, but how do we know if, someone was saying that they could possibly be rejuvenated, or like if you treat your body correctly and don't
the right nutrition and the right I don't know. I mean, if there's some people, there's a place in Japan, Okinawa, where there's a blue zone, and a blue zone is a place where people have lived longer than lived up to 100 years plus.
It's interesting because most of the people in Japan live like long time, like over 100, some of them. So
there's a lot of factors. I was watching a Vice News thing, and they were talking about a lot of factors involved in how people live longer. There's exercise, there's diet, what people eat, and what they tend to eat is a lot of plants and high protein things, and almost a vegan diet, if you will. And
like same with the Mediterranean diet. That's a good diet as well. Yeah,
Greece. There's a place in Greece, an island, which is a blue zone as well. They just refer to them as blue zones. And
ironically, they don't eat much grease.
No. So these people, they exercise a lot. They do. They eat good high protein.
Yeah, because they're in nature a lot, and obviously the weather's nice, so they get out and.
But it's not only that.
It's the sun as well that's doing it.
Yeah, I mean, how people treat the family, like the family unit in these places, is totally different. It's they cherish the elderly. The elderly, they are wise and they've seen a lot of shit, so they respect the elderly.
Do you know what the highest life expectancy is?
Oh, the oldest person?
I mean, as in like the country.
Oh. No.
It depends if you class it as a country, but is it Monaco?
Monaco.
It's a principality, but apparently the life expectancy is over 90, apparently.
Oh, I mean, these people in Okinawa have been to 111.
Yeah.
100.
I heard there was someone, was it from Africa or somewhere, lived to 146. I don't know if it's
oh my gosh
legit or not, but I mean, because it's like apparently it weren't verified by sort of like UK government or whatever. I mean, but obviously it's like if he had lived to that long, no other government is going to really want to verify that, because people are going to be like, "Hey, what the hell? How is he living that long?"
Well, people aren't going to. I mean,
we want to know his secrets, so that'd be pretty damaging to them.
Yes. Well, it would be damaging to the. Well, I mean, I guess to the economy as well, because people would be living longer, and
Exactly.
that means there'd be a lot more old people. And let's face it, once you get to like even at 111, right, you're not going to be that useful working. And if you retire at 60, that's like another
Well, it
50
depends
years.
if you live. I mean, I think some people live healthier for longer. Some are, healthy at
Yeah.
70, 80 years old. So that wouldn't be very good for them,
Yeah,
because
but that would mean changing the system and changing the retirement age, and the retirement age is
I think
going
it's
up.
more about them being able to. It's about the healthcare system. They kind of, that what they'll do is they'll, met you diseased, and then because they won't want to cure you because they can't make money out of you that way.
No, they can't.
And then they kill you off early, so then they can actually reap the benefits of that, because
The inheritance tax,
all the
movement of money from all goes back in the
it's
box.
all just a scam. Same with the prisons. They'll actually give you 200 odd years in prison just so they can make money off you.
Yeah, it's their way of getting to you. This kind of I guess, quote, slow kill stuff, like fast food and shit like that. It's just, I don't know. They want a quick turnover of people, so they want to get one generation over and then the next generation. I don't know.
Yeah, because if there were people that weren't getting, like, say, Alzheimer's, so much, then it wouldn't be very good for them, would it?
No.
There's obviously an increase of Alzheimer's and dementia. Then they're going to be benefiting from that. Why is there such an increase? Is it because people are living longer? Well, not that much longer. I mean, yeah, they are living somewhat longer,
Is it because we're drinking from aluminium cans, or
it can be.
Can be. And aluminium foil, where you make your tin foil hat out of.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, don't make tin foil hats because they're bad and you'll get dementia, and don't drink beer from a can. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I think it's just I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of ways that you can take it. It can either be a natural progression of things, and things just happen that way, and then we realize that it was bad, so then we change our ways, we use different things, or it's by design, and they want it to happen that way so that people stay stupid and people don't,
so that they can stay in power, and
so they can stay in power. Exactly. Yeah,
because it wouldn't be in our best interests for them to hoard all the resources and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a huge power game, man. It's a power game.
Like math power land.
The power in the numbers.
I started this.
He did. Well, I mean...
Well, actually, I heard there were some people before him, but I think they were kind of pushing the biblical flat earth or something back in 2000. Like 2000.
Oh, yeah, there was that, and then there was also the people 1,000 years ago, but...
Oh, of course, there was a Flat Earth Society from 1978, is it, or something?
Oh, yeah,
But obviously that's just some control opposition group, pretty clear.
I mean, Math Powerland set it up, and I don't know.
Well, he claims to be like the...
He claims to be, but...
but it's like, I feel like...
He's kind of stepping away from it. As if, like...
Or he's a bit kind of fishy,
as if he's kind of created a Frankenstein monster that he can't control, and he's just like, oh, well, this is your fucking monster now, Joanism.
I find his backstory a bit fishy. It's like, he claims to be a NASA insider, and some people that were above him or something spilled the beans about flat Earth. I mean,
wasn't he an artist? He was an artist, wasn't he?
Yeah, a photorealist.
Photorealist, realism artist, or something. Yeah, it isn't photoshopped, but it has to be. Yeah, but it was nice talking to you, Jamie. I think we should close it up. It's been fluctuating. It's gone up to 20 now, but I feel it's going to drop.
Yeah, it has been dropping because the UK audience
the Brits,
is probably
the limeys, the lazy limeys are dropping off.
Chat and a few British, but yeah, I think it's mainly the Yanks.
Yeah, Mick Taylor. I heard he was an alien. I don't know. Del said he was an alien. I don't know. He's like an alien with a cigarette in his hand. That's his caricature or something.
A lion.
A lion. A lie. Oh,
someone was saying that, the root word.
Yeah. Or realize, or real lies.
Real lies. Real lies. That's it.
Oh my god, dude, that's fucking nuts. Oh my gosh. Whenever I see that word, I can't unsee it now. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Is it?
it's at 16 viewers now. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's been
anyway,
good.
it's nice
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
to you, Jeremy, man. You're a very,
you can
very
come
good
back.
guy.
You can
Level
come
guy.
back on whenever you want. So yeah,
Yeah, cheers, man. You're a nice
I'm
level
glad I
flat guy.
trusted you. You're not a troller out like that.
No, I'm as real as it gets.
About
Unfortunately.
as real as Patrick Steer gets.
As real as it gets. Oh no, Patrick's
Steve,
cool.
yeah, Steve Antonio Subirats.
It's Anthony now, right? It's
Yeah,
Anthony.
yeah,
All right, Jamie. I'll speak to you later, man. Take care.
yeah. You take care.
All right, man. See you, dude. See everyone in chat. Bye.
Yeah.
See ya.
So, all right, guys. So just to let you guys know, I'll probably not be on again till maybe midweek, because I'm going to be a bit busy. So yeah, I'll speak to you guys soon. So yeah, till next time, peace.